So for the non-agenda public testimony, I will call your names, and please come forward and stand over here and then speak in any order once your name is called. We have several people, so each person will have 2 minutes. So please watch the green light and the yellow light. The yellow light will go on after 1 minute, so try to finish up your thoughts at that point so we don't have to stop you mid-sentence. Okay, to start off, we have Michael Snyder, Mary Turnberg, Amy Blatt, and Susan Hops-Tuttom. All of those can come forward and then speak in any order. Just please give your name first.
Thank you, Dr. Evans, members of the school board. My name is Michael Snyder. My address is on public record. I wanted to come and speak tonight off record regarding something that had come to my attention last week. We, of course, have been aware of school budget cuts and the circumstances regarding that over the last several years and possibly over the next several years. And I started to truly become concerned when it started to hit more at home. My son is graduating high school this year. Fortunately, he has not had to avail himself of many school services. He's a healthy young man. He has not had to take advantage of many of the tutoring services and the after-school programs. But a couple of the things that came up regarding the recommendations from Superintendent Bill Koba on the budget development summary certainly struck me. One of the things, as cluster leader at Madison High School, and I work closely with the Claremont cluster as well, the community has asked us to please work with VAPA. They're very concerned and do not want to lose the programs they have with music and arts. That I see with a 50% reduction. Certainly that's going to hit home in the Claremont area. Nursing was another item that I saw on there with the model of one nurse per cluster. Madison has 17 schools, or I should say Claremont has 17 schools and 2 clusters. Both clusters are at 15% special education. You can see how the effect would take place in the Claremont area with just 2 nurses available with those 17 schools. And then I looked at counseling, and as I said, there was one area that certainly hit home. My son is graduating this year from Madison High School. He's already received early acceptance to college. He has had so much coaching and so much help that I, as a parent, could never have done for him. This is so difficult to try and figure out from 7th and 8th and into 9th grade as to how to get through and get ready for college. Losing 3 high school counselors at Madison High School next year is certainly going to hurt me in trying to work within the community and talking to them about how great it is and the assistance you're going to get in working towards college, when I'm looking now at possibly getting 2 brand new high school counselors to replace the 3 experienced ones that I currently have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Susan Hops, my address is on record. Superintendent Koba and Board of Education members, I am a parent in San Diego Unified and a volunteer parent member on the Safe Schools Task Force. I am also here on behalf of my child's voice, which has not been heard. As you know, the district recently approved new procedures number 6381 to back its anti-bullying policy with regard to student-to-student bullying. While this is exciting progress towards eliminating bullying on school campuses, there is still a very long way to go towards ultimately protecting our students' civil rights and their right to a safe and nurturing school environment. The dangerous issue of adult misconduct in the forms of adult bullying and inappropriate behaviors is not being seriously or ethically addressed by our district. Devastating situations like those most recently publicized at Penn State and Miramonte Elementary School in LA, whereby adults, many who are mandated reporters, are not reporting child abuse and maltreatment, are occurring in our school district as we speak today. Parents with similar stories from around the district are banding together and know that San Diego Unified is aware of much of the abuse by adult public employees on school campuses and is not acting to protect our children. We are also aware that parents who bring legitimate safety concerns about children to the current administration and legal department are often maligned, routinely receive letters from their principals threatening them to have them arrested based on false behaviors, and typically have their concerns dismissed. This has become the documented norm in response to adult misconduct within our campuses. Disappointingly, the district has decided that the work of the Safe Schools Task Force is mostly done because of the recent accomplishments and has reduced its meetings to every other month, when in reality, they probably need to be meeting twice a month. This confirms a lack of respect for the ongoing and unaddressed issues of adult misconduct in all its forms on our campus. The climate of fear still exists. It is time for San Diego Unified to become morally courageous. If not the Board of Education, then who? If not the district's Safe Schools Task Force, who will be willing to have the hard conversations and take the necessary steps to protect our children? Parents are uniting from around our district and city to find out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Turnberg, and my address is on file. I'd like to continue to read the letter from Julene Thompson that she wrote to the newspaper. Dramatic stress can be seen in families in every corner of our country, caused by the economic times in which we live. This strain can regularly cause families to lose focus of their child's educational and emotional needs. Conversely, members of wealthy communities can make up the educational or emotional requirements of their children through private means. These same private professional resources are not within the financial grasp of ordinary Americans. Economically strained families count on a variety of professional support services that schools traditionally have provided. Are we now creating a two-tiered society by providing inadequate, unjust finances to the educational and counseling services given to our less financially privileged children? As has been said previously in many ways, shortchanging education now is shortchanging the future of this nation. Struggling families are usually pushed to the limit for having any spare time to devote to their children's needs. A teacher, counselor, nurse, or other support services personnel can be the means to bridge this gap. Please keep counseling in our schools completely funded, and please join us in lobbying Washington for reforms to educational funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen David Page and Julene Thompson.
I want to talk about a Saturday school. I received a letter from the California Department of Education, and as it turns out, that mandatory Saturday school, children have not been provided their lunches. Even kindergartners are being forced to serve Saturday school. I think that the Saturday school policy needs to be looked at very carefully. Hundreds of students and parents have never been informed that Saturday school cannot be mandatory, and if it is, it's considered a school day, and you have to be implementing certain legal requirements. Schools are not penal institutions, and I think that Saturday school has morphed into detention and many other things that it was never meant to be, and I think that really seriously needs to be looked at. The letter from CDE says that only the school sites that have mandatory sessions are required to provide a meal to students attending the classes, and there are hundreds of them on Saturdays pouring out of there without transportation, very poor curriculum, if any exists at all, and that needs to be looked at.
My name is David Page. It's good to see you all again. I'm the chair of the DAC, and I'm speaking as such. You have a number of items on the agenda today that are spending Title I dollars in the millions of dollars. The claim on there is that you intend to discuss the items with the DAC. That's not consultation. It says consultation, but if you vote tonight and then come back to us at a later date, that's not consultation. That's advising us instead of us advising you. Your regulations regarding parent engagement in that area says that you come to the DAC, or the staff does, with a proposal as to what's going to be happening, and then we have an opportunity to discuss it. It has time to go to the school site council, and then it comes back to you. But this board has had a habit over this year of coming forward with things that never even see the light of day of discussion at the DAC or otherwise, and we're getting tired of it.
Thank you.
My name is Julene Thompson, and my address is on record. I'm here representing the counselors and the children in the school district that I know. Financing public education is in the math. Educators have looked at what is considered to be successful, educated, graduating senior from high school and taken that picture to build an educational pyramid to reflect this goal. However, this educational pyramid is funded in reverse. It is in the math. Elementary schools get the least of the budget, and high schools get the most. Using this funding period, where is the math when looking at the high number of administrators and their pay scale throughout the city of San Diego schools? Who has calculated the number of consultants currently hired after their retirements at or above the pay scale they earned while they were school employees? During my 43 years as a teacher, I seldom heard of educators that became principals or district administrators who possess degrees and or expertise in the financial arena. Do any current members of the Board of Education have experience in the field of finance? Would we have a doctor operate on our brain whose specialty is knee replacement surgery? Why then do we allow these non-experts to make our financial decisions? If we agree that it is in the math, then a neutral financial expert needs to be hired to look at the totality of the budget and the number of administrators and their assistants commensurate with the needs in each department, and to work with volunteer committees made up of representatives that are currently employed in the district and who have their fingers on the pulse in specific educational departments. It is in the math that teachers, counselors, nurses, policemen, school secretaries, and custodians, while using the least amount of the budget, have the greatest influence on our children, their time in our school, and the special programs that affect the entire educational spectrum. Those administrators and consultants serving our children from the greatest distance currently earn the most in salaries and benefits.
Thank you.
I'm just end one sentence.
Okay.
The old educational financing cuts and attitudes have not worked in the past. It is time to change. It is in the math. Thank you.
Anna Marquez and Stephen Greenwald.
Hello, my name is Anna Marquez, and my address is on public record. I don't usually like to speak in public, but as we're all people, just people here, I hope that in this room we can all share one thing in common, and that is the commitment to give all kids the best chance at being successful adults. My husband and I have 4 children. 3 are in college, and I have one back there that's in the 5th grade. But we're blessed and we're fortunate in that regard. But as a mother, I have to object to the proposal of eliminating counseling services in our schools. We all know the importance of good mental health. It is the cornerstone to the academic success in children. It goes without saying that all kids need guidance, proper guidance. Eliminating counseling in schools, especially in the elementary level, is not just a ridiculous idea. It is the most, in my opinion, most irresponsible proposition from a group of people who are supposed to advocate for children's education. I'm here on behalf of parents and educators who value the work of counselors at all grade levels. Please reconsider other options and do not eliminate counseling programs from our schools. Laying off counselors would mean losing wonderful programs such as the Early Mental Health Initiative, the Second Step Program, individual and group sessions, bully prevention, Just Say No, Career Day, and many, many more programs. Kids that may already be at risk are potentials for even greater risk. And the impact will be measured in the high price that we will all be paying down the road in terms of intervention. Please do not take away this invaluable resource from our schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. Stephen Greenwald, candidate for mayor here in the city of San Diego. 3 points. Number one, last week I spoke that I felt that you should tell Governor Brown not to cause increased regressive taxes on us, but to ask for he should get the GNP increased by 10%, and then he'd have monies for education from preschool through PhD, and I reiterate that. Number two is I want to make you point of wasted food at two specific schools, Patrick Henry and Bernie Public Schools. Those two schools today have a salad bar, and at the end, all the food is put into plastic bags and just thrown out. So I'd recommend looking at those two schools. And thirdly, if you're asking for concessions on the part of the unions for the teachers, I think we have to give the teachers something in return. There are 3 points. Number one is called a discount program, 5 to 25% a voluntary program on the part of all businesses here in the city of San Diego to provide discounts to all members of the San Diego Unified School District. Number two is we should use credit cards to buy everything from the San Diego Unified School District. At the end of the month, we pay for it. At the end of the year, there's 1%, 3%, and 5% monies back from that credit cards, and it's given as bonuses to the teachers. And number three is we have to give them perks. Perks are basically all tickets that are not used by the Chargers, the Padres, Old Globe Theater, Ice Capades, whatever it may be, can be bought by the teachers and all members of the San Diego Unified School District at an 80% discount. So we have to show that we want them to stay here, and we have, if you want them to give us concessions, we have to help them out. So I'd recommend talking with the unions about that aspect. And the last point is that we have to set up a healthcare system where basically medical clinics would be available for all members of the San Diego Unified School District. They'd be able to go together with cities. I'll just take 1 minute left. The Port Authority, the city employees, and all members here would be able to go to a public health clinic, get a wellness program for $5, and also we should have contracts with all specialized hospitals, Kaiser, UCSD, Scripps, and Sharps. So the bottom line is we decrease the cost of health care for all our teachers by 25%. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, Donna Good, the president of the ASB Council of Presidents.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I would now like to ask the Navy JROTC color guard from Point Loma High School to present the colors. Please stand. Thank you. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, cut. Order. Colors. Ready, cut. 4 colors. Left, face, forward, march. Left, 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 right, right.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody present here today and also those watching the broadcast and call the February 14th, 2012 regular meeting to order with all board members present. Now, if you wish to address the board and your name is not on the blue sheet is not on the blue sheet, please go to the tables here at the entrance and you can submit a request for a public testimony form. Complete that form and turn it in to Ms. Villarrato here at my right. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once discussion begins on an item, no additional public speakers will be accepted. And it's only for the person who is signed up to speak. It cannot be deferred to another person. If there's any additional non-agenda testimony, that will be heard at the close of the meeting. So at this time, I'd like to ask the ASB student representatives on the board to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at your high school. First of all, Donner Good, the ASB Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I'm Donner Good, the ASB President at Patrick Henry High School. Currently, our ASB is working on our winter formal, publicizing for that, making sure that we're prepared for the pep rally, which we will celebrate our talent show winners, first, second, and third place, and also making sure that the senior athletes of the spring season are celebrated. Thank you.
Okay, and we also have here today Sally Sa from University City High School with her fan club.
Good evening. My name is Sally Sa, AZ President of University City High School. And a few items I have on my agenda include is we have a blood drive coming up on February 28th, and we hope to make it a community event and advertise it upon our marquee on the school grounds. We have our ASB ball happening on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. And getting ready for Anti-Bullying Week, which is to happen the first week of March. And yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good to hear from our students. And also, before we begin our discussions on the business, we're going to have a student presentation from the San Diego High Cluster. Mr. Brer.
Yeah, thank you, President Evans. I'm prepared to say a lot of great things about Roosevelt Middle School, but the students who are here to present their artwork apparently haven't arrived yet, so we won't hold that against the school, but they're not here. So.
Okay, we will postpone that maybe a little bit later. Now, moving on to administrative assignments and the superintendent's information report.
Thank you, President Evans. I have two employee assignment announcements to make tonight. We are appointing Sylvia Martinez to become vice principal at the Audubon K-8 school, and assigning as interim district police chief Ruben Littlejohn from his current position as lieutenant to acting chief, and that will be effective 1st of April. I wanted to make early notification because he and outgoing retiring Chief Braun need to go through a transition period. This is an internal reassignment for a period of time. If I could, I'd like to move on to the superintendent's other comments. First, I want to highlight the fact that since our regular business board meeting, the one going back to late January, I've had the opportunity to be out visiting a number of our schools to get a good appreciation of how they're doing from a variety of perspectives. One with dealing with achievement gap issues, attendance, positive PLC, professional learning community engagement, and a number of other issues. So I've had the opportunity to be a little bit north in the district, visiting at Curie Elementary and Sequoia McCoy Elementary. Have been down a little further, more centrally located, to visit at Kimbrough Elementary, Sherman, and Golden Hill, and just yesterday at Marshall Elementary and Ibarra Elementary. And fascinating to see the variation and the needs. Came home to me yesterday the appreciation for a significant amount of homeless and transient population, and trying to trace our kids and make sure that there's some stabilized teaching and learning, despite the fact we have multiple movements in certain parts of our district, and an area that I need to get more focused on in terms of aligning to schools and portions of the district. Also had the opportunity to talk to a number of different specific classroom groupings of students. I was at Crawford High School at the end of January to talk to both 11th and 12th graders about a variety of issues dealing with professional goal setting, career building, basically a focus on Life 101, which I thought was a very important effort. And I understand that Trustee Barnett's already been over to talk to them. I think Mr. Barrera was also aligned. So a program there where the kids are talking to some of the leadership in the district. This past week I was at the Claremont High School Academy of Business and Technology, and they have a terrific mentoring program for kids in the Technology and Business Academy. I was a full-up mentor last year, and this year I'm doing a little bit more on a part-time basis, and having been to this event, talked to another group of 11th and 12th graders about the concepts of individual initiative, work ethic, and impact on work setting as they move out as young adults. And then lastly, yesterday at Erickson Elementary, talking about local government, and in this case the perspective of a school district and governing board, and serving the public at large and the kids in particular. So fascinating interaction. Questions are always hard, to put you on the spot. A couple of other things I want to bring up. We had the Barnard Mandarin Chinese celebration of the new year, Year of the Dragon. The kids actually provided some of that cultural adaptation here a couple of weeks ago, and I was over at the school, and what was remarkable about it is they had a sister school contingent from China, both administrators and some number of kids, to join them in the celebration, and it was a terrific packed auditorium to recognize the good work, the cultural exchange between the schools. I also want to highlight a success story for those that weren't aware. We did run a piece recently. Our School for the Creative and Performing Arts, SCPA, had the great distinction of having a student grouping identified as Best Teen Band in a competition that took place at the National Association of Music Merchants up in Anaheim. Our kids included John Avery, Mark Encabo, Hiram Garza, Chaz Cabrera, Tyler Crudo, Josh Vasquez. And the kids were so good that they earned a $5,000 award for the SCPA music department, another $1,000 award for band uniforms, and the privilege of going to Germany to participate in a much more broader international contest to follow. So some terrific work that takes place at SCPA. And I'll close by alerting, I think, both the board and the community at whole that we're working with a number of school districts in the San Diego County area to look at ways to network to create a career and college system for supporting ourselves in terms of broadening our options in high schools. And I don't know where this is going to go, but we've had a couple of meetings and there's a lot more to follow, and we're working with Escondido Union High School, Carlsbad Unified, Oceanside, potentially Grossmont, and more to follow on that. But I hosted a meeting here a few days ago, and I think there's more to follow. So a lot going on in the district, but we'll keep working at it.
Thank you very much. And now we'll have some board reports, starting with Ms. Jackson.
I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, so just very quickly, I'd like to thank a group of parents, teachers, and principals from the International Baccalaureate schools in our district. We've got schools that feed into San Diego High School, and I think Principal Ankeny is here with the School of International Studies, that include Roosevelt Middle as well as McKinley, Jefferson, and Bernie elementary schools. And then we have another cluster of schools that feed into the IB program at Mission Bay High School. And in the situation that we're in with our budget crisis, we're certainly hoping that some things happen to help us, and we can be in a position to restore funding to those programs, which have meant really incredible opportunities for kids from our community to be able to come through a system, elementary, middle, and high school that is as fine, or I believe finer education than any student could hope to achieve at any private school anywhere in the country. Real jewels in our community. But rather than just simply wait, for our budget crisis to see what happens, a group of volunteers have come together to put together some proposals that we can take out to the community so we can start raising some money right now to make sure that those programs continue in place. And so incredible leadership by the members of this task force, and Mr. Barnett has been a leader in putting that together as well, and I just want to thank that group.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Beiser.
I want to thank the Madison High School JROTC Color Guard, who were performed at the opening ceremonies of the California State Democratic Party Convention here in San Diego on Saturday morning. Second, I've been working extensively with different communities and schools as they're creating their master schedules for next year. I want to really give a shout out and thank you to Ann Mena and all the work she's doing at Scripps Ranch High School to keep drama next year in a very solid form, and other principals that are working very hard to make sure that they have master schedules next year for their children. Third, I will continue to advocate for no layoffs next year and hope that we will explore options for a balanced budget and maintaining class sizes and educational programs in a no layoff climate. Hopefully we'll get some more news on that as in the coming months. And finally, I'd like to thank the Police Officers Association for working together with the school district to save jobs and keep kids safe. And lastly, I just want to share with many friends in the community that are aware of the condition of my mother. We had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and her cancer cells and tumors have been frozen through chemotherapy, and at this point in time is in remission. Thank you.
Okay. Just quickly also, this morning I got up early and went to Porter Elementary before school in their primetime program. The Rolling Readers program was there, and I had the chance to read a story about a kind of gruff old guy who never smiled. Anyway, it was fun to do, a group of kindergarten and first and second graders. But Rolling Readers is a program of volunteers throughout the district that go into the schools and read to and with the children, and it's something that anybody can do. The whole point is to really inspire a love of reading. The teacher can certainly work on a lot of the technical aspects, but having members of all ages from the community makes a huge difference in terms of these kids getting excited about reading. I was also at Erickson Elementary, where the superintendent was before he was a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke to the fourth graders who are the class of 2020. I explained a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish in our schools between now and the year 2020, and I was asking them what they wanted to get out of school and what they wanted to do after they were out of school. And certainly as they're going through school, they were very interested in being able to participate in sports, in music, biology, math, paleontology was another big one. They asked a little bit about what our job was. They were amazed that board meetings can sometimes last over 2 hours without a recess. And that was one of the things they suggested, was having more recess at school. But then one child raised his hand and said no, because then we'd miss out on learning. So there are different opinions about that, like everything. But I really, Mr. Barham, the teacher at Erickson, had invited me to come speak to the class. I think Ms. Jackson and some others have gone in and spoken to them before. And I really appreciate what all the teachers and the staff are doing at the same time that we have this cloud constantly hanging over us of the budget crisis, that people are continuing to work hard and enthusiastic in spite of that. And we've certainly heard people today talking about not wanting to make cuts, and certainly everybody here on the board is in complete agreement that we should not cut counselors, we should not cut music, we should not cut nurses, or a lot of other, we should not have huge class sizes. And so, as Mr. Beiser was saying, we need to find a way to work together with all our unions to find a resolution to this. And yes, we do very much appreciate the Police Officers Association being the first group to step forward and work with us on solving this problem, and we certainly look forward to all of the other employee groups continuing to do this. We're not going to wait for Sacramento or Washington. We're going to find San Diego solutions to the problems that we're experiencing right here, and we're only going to do that by all of us really working and sticking together. So with that, we will move on with our business items.
We've got our Roosevelt folks. Yeah.
Just in the auditorium, has just arrived. Go ahead.
All right, so we've now the moment we've all been waiting for. So Principal Arturo Cabello and our Roosevelt students are here to present some artwork from the 6th grade. And just very quickly, as we talk about our process to create a quality school in every neighborhood, and we talk about the things that we look at to show whether we have a quality school, I don't think we have to look any further than Roosevelt. Roosevelt is a school that the community has really rebuilt over the last decade, the IB program being at the core of that, but there's so much to what goes on in Roosevelt. It's after-school program, it's broad curriculum, and Principal Cabello has stepped right in and really taken Roosevelt to a new level this year. And so we've got some 6th graders to present some artwork.
Yes, and I apologize for the tardiness of our appearance today, but I want to thank all of you for the invitation for coming here this evening. And as an International Baccalaureate school, I'd like for all of you to know that we are an inquiry-based teaching and learning program that requires students to delve into their critical thinking skills and create products from each of their lessons. And I'm very proud to present a 6th grade project that was in collaboration with the Museum of Photographic Arts and under the tutelage of Ms. Crafton and Sarah Trueblood. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to share with you that art is one of the 8 core subjects of the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program. At Roosevelt, our 6th grade students are involved in an interdisciplinary art and humanities project. They're engaged in an ongoing process of developing knowledge and understanding through application, and that's what's represented in the slide, of the technique and skills, culminating in an assessment project. What you'll see today are some examples of our students' work and some reflections on their learning process.
Good evening. What we were instructed to do in our photography unit was to take 1 to 5 similar photographs to make a series of photos. What we are presenting to you tonight is one photo from each of our series. This unit was fun and educational because we learned about photography while still doing what we liked. Thank you. My name is Ariella Hickey and I'm 11 years old. I really enjoyed being able to go to the Museum of Photographic Arts, where the entire 6th grade was able to see what professional photographers do when they are taking pictures, and how they were able to make their pictures better by using some important rules. I was able to use some of the photographers' ideas in my own photographs. I'm going to talk to you about the guidelines the 6th grade had when we were taking pictures. Although the 6th grade didn't have limits as to what we could take pictures of, we were still taught some rules that professional photographers use. These include the rule of thirds, vantage point, lines, use of light, and color. These rules helped me a lot when I was taking my photographs. In this photograph, I used vantage point because when I looked up to the flowers instead of looking forward, you could see the sky and the bush of flowers. I'm glad I was given the opportunity to enhance my photography skills while still using my imagination and being creative when I was taking pictures.
Good job.
This is a photo of a fence in our school. It is the barrier in between two bungalows. To me, it signifies that it could be a space cut off from the rest of the school. We learned about many different photographic techniques, but the one that helped me the most was vantage point. Without the vantage point, this fence would just be a fence. But in understanding vantage point, it is art. Vantage point in art is like perspective in life. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Jack Peabody, and during this photographic project, I was trying to show how interesting it is to use freeze frames. My photographs are alike because they are all freeze frames. Freeze frames effectively create the action I wanted to represent in the photos. I chose to share this photo with you because I felt that it really showed what we did during this project. Thanks, and have a nice day. Hello, my name is Kai Dillman. In this picture, I was trying to create close-ups of flowers, but when I got my photo produced, the flower came out blurry and the black background was clear. I thought this was interesting because when there are no details to look out, the color is really, it stands out. Thank you.
All right.
Hello, my name is Tony Johnson, and I'm going to share my full series of photographs. This photo is called Mysterious Shoes. On this photo, I was trying to show how photos are not always what they seem. Because as you may have noticed, the shoes appear to be floating, but actually, the people in this photo are just sitting down. I named this picture Colorful Converse. The colors can add lots of interest in photos. That is why I took this photo, because the colors of the shoes are just amazing. I named this photograph the shoe shadows. Shadows can be very important in photos, and to have the right shadow, you need the right amount of lighting. So when I took this photo, I had to make sure I had the right amount of lighting to make sure the shadow appeared. This photo was actually quite boring at first because it didn't have the right amount of lighting, which caused it to look dull and boring. Then I solarized it to add a more interesting look. Wow. I really enjoy working on the series of photographs because I got to show my creativity and interest of shoes. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Hi, my name is Jordan Tinney. I'm 12 years old, and this picture is called The Silver Perspective. When I took this picture, I was thinking about the rule of thirds. For those of you that do not know what the rule of thirds is, it's when you don't take the picture directly in the middle. So as you can see, the main focus of my picture is to the side. Also, I use the vantage point. The vantage point is the angle where you take the picture. This is so important in this picture because if I did not take it from this angle, I would not get my reflection in the globe. I am grateful to expand my horizons on photography. Thank you. Have a great day. Join us for a photographic expedition, March 6th, the 13th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Birch North Park Theater on University Avenue. Happy Valentine's Day.
I just want to say that at our school, the International Baccalaureate program is accessible to all students, not just students in seminar or GATE, but students with IEPs, students that are second language learners, regular run-of-the-mill students. Everyone has access to this core curriculum, which is inquiry-based. It requires our students to think, critically think, and to use all of their skills. And so thank you as you go through and you look at the budgets and you think about cutting. This is what it's all for. And thank you so much for asking us to be here this evening.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. We enjoyed looking at the photographs, and you've got a really great program at Roosevelt. Okay, we'll now continue with our business part of the meeting where we will discuss various items in public among the board members. First of all, a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move the agenda with the following modifications, that items F2 and F3 be first read to allow for the DAC input. Those
Okay.
are, yes.
There's a motion to move F2 and F3. We had, just to point out, we had previously moved up I1 and I2 with some outside people that are present. Do you want to have
Oh,
those
yes,
following
that's
I1
fine.
and I2?
No, that's fine, yes. No, I'm just saying that the way it is printed, I1 and I2 are already there,
Right.
moved up. I'm just modifying it more to say that the items F2 and F3
Okay.
should be first reads tonight to allow for DAC input.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Hurst.
Thank
For
you.
first read, you didn't mean first on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. That they be first reading. Okay. The motion and second to make these first reading.
Can I?
Yes. Superintendent, comment?
I'm fine with a first read.
Okay. Motion and second for first reading for items F2 and F3 and the rest of the agenda as listed. All in favor? Okay, that passes 5-0. We will do that then. So we will start off with item I1, which is the resolution in the matter of authorizing the sale of refunding bonds not to exceed $200 million of general obligation refunding bonds. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Evans. I think that we have the wrong brief up there on the screen right now. What we want to have is a brief to the board, continuation of a discussion from earlier this morning and a decision with regards to refinancing. And this is our construction bond for Prop M and Prop MMMNS are affected, so I'm going to turn this over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Ron Little.
And I can start by saying, following this morning's discussion, I move this item.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Koba, and I would just like to say happy Valentine's Day to everyone as well. I'm just going to highlight a few of the germane points from this morning's presentation. We had our finance team replete with the CFO, yours truly, our controller, Jenny Salkeld, as well as representatives from Loop Capital, Citigroup, Fieldman and Rollup, and Oric, our bond counsel. And this morning we presented to the board a presentation that we first presented to the board in December. So this was sort of following up with that presentation in December, bringing back more details and obviously culminating tonight in an approval for a resolution to make the action that we're requesting actually happen. So as you'll recall, given the AV growth and the lack of growth, actually, or the declined growth of AV in the last few years, we alerted the board last fall, actually towards the end of last summer, that Prop S was in jeopardy of being slowed down, if not stalled, due to our lack of capacity to issue more bonds. Obviously, the AV growth were some projections that we had done previously, and we used historical trends in projecting those assumptions, and the last 3-4 years have underperformed those historical assumptions. So we came to the board and we made a couple different proposals with respect to rectifying that situation, and in December the board directed staff to choose one that involved refunding current bonds and repurchasing some other bonds that are currently in the hands of current investors to free up some capacity. So what we presented this morning was, again, the two-step program. One was to refund about $64 million of debt service on current bonds, and then the second step was to purchase and refund some Prop S bonds that were issued in 2009 and 2010, up to about $55 to $60 million. This two-step plan would achieve two things. First of all, it would result into some savings to the district and the taxpayers with respect to lower debt service. And the second thing would be a shorter maturity. So the bonds that we issued in 2009 and 2010 were 40-year maturities for the most part. So the new structure, as we refinance and refund, would be shorter maturities, somewhere in the range of 15 to 22 years. So those are the two things that we'll be achieving, as well as, of course, freeing up the capacity to issue new bonds moving forward so that we can maintain the momentum of our $2 billion Prop S program. We also presented this morning a timeline. As we reported this morning, we met with the ratings agencies yesterday in New York to ask them to restore our previous credit rating and to reconsider their methodologies for assessing discussing long-term credit ratings. Tonight we're before you to ask for approval on the resolution that's provided. Once we receive your approval, the preliminary official statement will go out tomorrow, and we'll receive our ratings hopefully in 2 weeks or so, and we hope to have the bonds priced into the open market by the end of the month and closed hopefully by mid-March. Once this transaction is done and we successfully sell these bonds and refinance them, we'll have the capacity obviously to come back in March, come back in early April, late March, with some new bond money with respect to a new issuance of Prop S. So that's where we are tonight. The action on the agenda is to request that you approve the resolution that's included in the agenda and in your documents. In support of our recommendation and resolution, we provide you the following. You have the preliminary official statement that reflects the transaction in detail. You have Exhibit A of the resolution that reflects the cost of issuances that are estimated at this point. And I would just note, obviously, that by approving this resolution, the board effectively approves the agreements and the MOUs necessary to facilitate and achieve the refunding program. So these are, again, delineated in your documents, but these documents would include the escrow agreement, the tender agreement, the fiscal agent agreement, the MOU agreement with the county, which sets up the cash tax reserve that we talked about this morning, as well as some other agreements. So if there are any questions, we still have our financing team here from this morning who'd be happy to entertain any questions, and I'd be happy to do so at this point.
Okay. I just want to reiterate for the public here, because we had a very detailed presentation this morning. Basically, we're talking about the Proposition S funds, which are capital funds that were voted on a few years ago for construction in the district, and we're basically refinancing our bonds is one way to put it. Because of the downturn in the economy, we would not be able to keep the money coming in, and the Proposition S programs that are so important would not be on track. The only other alternative would be for the tax rate to go up to keep things on track. We made a commitment on the board when it went on the ballot, those who were on the board at the time, that this Proposition S would not result in any tax increase, and we're going to honor that. So we're able to do this to keep some of the projects on track by refinancing the bonds, and then in the long run, the restructuring will actually save us money over time. And also in regards to, I think, some comments that were made earlier, there were also outside eyes that reviewed all of this, and other consultants came in and looked to make sure that everything was being done properly by the district. So are there any questions or comments? Are there any speakers on this item, Ms. Villarata? No public speakers.
Mr. Little, why is it $200 million in Exhibit A?
The $200 million, just to give us some flexibility with respect to the amount in total that we need to refund and or purchase. So as we explained this morning, depending on the variables and the interest rates of the time, et cetera, we just want a little flexibility with respect to achieving that level of savings. So we're anticipating, as we present this morning, more in the line of about $122 million, $125 million of sale and refunding of bonds.
Okay.
Just so that everybody in the audience can have the benefit of some of the main points from this morning's presentation and our discussion and conversation, was that will the bond now be paid off in a shorter period of time?
These series of bonds that we are refunding will have shorter maturities, yes.
Okay. And then will we actually be realizing a net savings of dollars?
Yes, we will. And that was quantified this morning. I think it was about, at this point, and those numbers will change, it was about
$1.5 million.
In PV dollars, correct.
Present value dollars. So that's like adjusted for inflation and things like that. Okay, great. And then the third question is that by taking this action, we are, in essence, not raising the taxes on the Prop S, right?
Correct. That's the point of this action, is to keep the tax rate at the promised rate of $66.70 per $100,000 of EV.
Okay, so
yes,
then
correct.
To vote to do this keeps the property taxes down.
Keeps the rates at the promised levels, correct.
Thank you.
I just had a comment then on front top of what Mr. Beiser said. I think it's real critical to say that, you know, this was a political commitment made by the School Board 2008 to say that if these bonds are issued, the tax rate that we're currently being paid wouldn't increase. If the board didn't take this action, the treasurer would be required to automatically raise the tax rate. This is not really a legal requirement. It's a political requirement. And I have to say, in my many years of watching and observing government, I've seen many cases where taxes, there's been excuses used to raise them, to not use them for what the purpose was intended, to extend them, but this is the first time I've seen a government entity go to this effort to fulfill essentially a political, public commitment to the public and the taxpayers, not one that's even legally required. So this is a fairly significant action for this board to take this. So I definitely support it and want to commend the staff for keeping track of this issue and ensuring that we did not automatically go over the tax rate that was committed to the voters.
Okay, if there are no further comments, we can vote on the motion. Okay, that passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to item I2, which is the potential 2012 capital facilities bond measure. Okay, Superintendent Koba.
Thank you, President Evans. This evening I'm going to ask Bernie Reinerson, our Chief of Staff, to kick this off. It's a presentation to both the Board Collective and to our community on a concept of a facilities bond to be presented in potentially November of 2012. To this point in time, it's been a concept that's been discussed at a lower level. We thought it was appropriate after a good amount of research done by a number of people to present to the board and community a concept with scope defining, what it is that would be appropriate for support, ranging from dealing with major repair and replacement to offset and mitigate a backlog that most large school districts have, positive impacts for student learning, pursuit of upgrade or improvement on things like access and code compliance. I want Bernie to go through all of that with you to present that as a concept. The intent here would be to get some feedback from you and or from community, and then after tonight to proceed with continuing refinement and assessment of this concept. I will authorize some spending of a small amount of state school funding for the research, the man hours that may be involved, and then to come back to the board at a later date within a number of months, perhaps May, June time frame, but when we're at a good point in this milestone of research, to further update the board to get another check-in and a concurrence on proceedings. So that's kind of where we are, what I want to do, and I'm going to turn it over to Bernie at this point.
Thank you, Superintendent, President Evans, members of the board. What we'd like to do tonight is to give you and the public an update about the staff's thinking at this point about the structure of a facilities bond that would be on the ballot in November of 2012. We'd like to begin by kind of going through the structure of that bond and the benefits of it, the timing and viability, and then the next steps and coming back to the board with more detail, as the superintendent mentioned. As the board is well aware, our facilities, the over 200 schools that we have and the facilities that we have, we're way behind in maintenance and taking care of those facilities, what we call major repair and replacement program. And I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Making sure that the facilities are acceptable for student health, safety, and security, accessibility requirements, providing new classrooms. The other benefit of this bond bond is that it can provide some benefits to the general fund to relieve some of our general fund expenses that will be growing in the years in the future. And we'll be doing more analysis of this as we go forward, providing more technology, supporting the sustainability of our technology program, energy efficiency, and hopefully helping with some of the budget problems that we have. It also, and also very importantly, does provide funding for charter schools, which are also public schools, and we would share this bond as we did Proposition S with charter schools. So let me go into a bit more detail about the elements of the bond. The first and largest element is major repair and replacement. I want to pause just for a moment and thank Lee Dugroff and Phil Stover. This was a team effort putting this together, and I'm just going through it, but Lee is here and Phil is here to answer any detailed questions. $750 million of a proposed bond would be allocated for major repair and replacement. About $500 million in the new bond, and we still have some in the Prop S bond. For 10-year maintenance of building systems and physical plant operations, about $250 million. Student learning and instruction. As with Prop S, this would be an important element of the new bond on the November ballot. Proposition S really transported our district into the digital age of instruction. We want to stay there. We see what it's done in the classrooms, but we need to maintain that. So the Prop S investment of $344 million was very successful. This would provide about $11 million annual just to sustain that program. Also money for technology infrastructure that we could leverage with E-rate, and for major projects like updating the phone system. This morning there was an email going around from one of our high schools whose voicemail system went down. And Mr. Barnett, I believe it was one of the schools in your district. Voicemail down, we have voice over internet systems, we have the old systems, we don't have a standard voicemail system. That's critical infrastructure for running all of our schools, so that we could build that into this. Career technical education. You've seen what we've done in Proposition S, and there are several more projects that we can continue to leverage with this new bond. Energy efficiency and sustainability would be allocated about $210 million of the bond, continuing our solar panel leadership as a school district in that, but also looking at new systems, energy fuel cells in the future that we could probably even get more energy savings, using recycled water for irrigation, installing high-efficiency lighting, building insulation, dual-pane windows, replacement of inefficient mechanical systems. Overall, we're going to look at this and study this further, but this could mean a savings to our general fund in the $5 to $8 million range on an annual basis. So one of the things we're looking at as a next step is to analyze the savings to the general fund that could be potentially $25 to $40 million. Staff needs to do more work on this in the next couple of months. The next time we come back to you, we'll have more details, but this kind of itemizes what those savings would be. Some other areas would be a bond allocation for student safety, health, and security, seismic and structural safety, air conditioning in our schools going into climate zone 2. And I know, Board Member Beiser, this is an important area for you, and this would allow us to get to that, and that would be programmed into it. Fire alarms, fire doors, those kind of things would be part of it. Neighborhood schools. If we're going to be implementing the strategic process and a quality school in every neighborhood, we need to do some work to construct some new facilities so that as we readjust where children are going to school, rather than being transported out of their neighborhoods, that we can have the capacity for that. And so there's a potential we're looking at for a high school in the south area and neighborhood schools where resident population exceeds the classroom capacity. It's also available for visual and performing arts facilities, for joint use facilities that we might do with the city, and for classroom funds. As I mentioned, charter schools would get an allocation, a proportionate share of $330 to $370 million. They could use that for their facilities on district-owned facilities, development of equitable facilities for charters, for classroom improvements, site reconfiguration. They would also have the technology allocation that we talked about so that they can go into the digital age of teaching, and sustainable and energy projects that the district would be doing. Accessibility and code compliance is important with our older buildings. Americans with Disability Act improvements, providing equal access, portable classroom replacement, getting rid of our portables and having permanent facilities, and upgrading our food service and prep kitchens, continuing that process. So this slide is a summary of what a bond structure might look like in the $2.5 to $2.8 billion range that would be on the November ballot. Those are the numbers that I just kind of briefly went through for the board, but these are the areas that we'll be doing more project lists on, more work on. Mr. Dugaroff will be leading that work along with Mr. Stover, and coming back to the board in May or June with more specific project lists. But this is the basic structure of where we would start from. So in summary, the bond would be $2.5 to $2.8 billion. What that means is a new bond, it would be a $60 per 100,000 assessed valuation increase on property tax bills. And again, very clearly, that's in addition to the Prop S. But it would give the district capacity to finally make up our backlog of maintenance and repair on our facilities. It would also have, as all of our other bond measures had and is required by state law, independent oversight, its own ICOC, annual performance audits. We would write in there that it would not be used for administration salaries. It would be for the things that we mentioned in the bond. And again, what this provides is a source of local funding that is not subject to state budget ups and downs. So timing, one of the things that we're looking at in a November 2012 election is that it's a presidential election. So it has the largest, most diverse turnout of any elections. This happens once every 4 years, and it's an opportunity for the district to take a bond measure to the electorate that's the largest and most diverse electorate. And that is a benefit in trying to win voter support. There is community support for this at this point. You've been provided some polling information that a outside citizens committee has done, and hopefully your first speaker this evening will summarize those polling results for you that shows that this is a very viable, at the 55% voter approval level, very viable that we can receive voter support for this bond. If we don't act and move forward at this particular time with this bond, again, we miss the opportunity of a presidential election. We have a growing burden on the general fund for maintenance and technology sustainment. We have that backlog of maintenance. We have classrooms that are with depleted and obsolete technology because we can't sustain it. And we have a need for classrooms and schools to be improved and built in underserved areas as we're going to those neighborhood school models. And again, utility bills, we want to make sure that we can address that. So finally, this is a summary of our process between now and June. Staff and Mr. Dugaroff will be looking at the analysis of what those GFU savings are and come back with some more specifics to you, developing a specific bond scope, and we'll be doing some outreach with our cluster groups to get input and with stakeholders, developing bond program alternatives for your review when we come back with site-specific project lists. And then it would be your decision to place this on the November ballot. Usually the deadline for placing a ballot measure is about the first week of August, so you'd have between your June meetings and July meetings to make a decision whether or not to place the measure on the ballot. So with that, Mr. Dugaroff is here, Mr. Stover and I can answer any questions, and we do have a citizen speaker to summarize those polling results for you.
The citizen speaker is?
That would be Andy Berg.
Okay, I have two public speakers, and then we'll get into the board discussion. Andrew Berg and then Lisa Berlanga.
Slides, maybe? I don't know who's working that, but
Andy, they have handouts, so the slides will.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, so my name is Andy Berg, and the reason I'm here, I was honored to co-chair your Prop S campaign, and honored but not as successful to chair your Prop J campaign in 2010. And hopefully, with your blessing, if you put this on the ballot, I'm willing to volunteer my time again to get this passed, because the schools just flat out need the money and it's not coming from anywhere else. We commissioned a poll paid for by all private dollars that was taken over the weekend of January 29th through 31st. And a couple of things in that poll that you should know about. I'm just going to really get through some of the highlights. Probably the most important thing was that 60% of the voters believe San Diego schools have a great need for additional funding. Not just a need, but they said a great need for additional funding. That compares with 2010, where it was 57% when we asked the same question, and 52% in 2008 when we asked the question. If you remember, in 2008, we passed Prop S with 68% of the vote, and only 52% thought that there was a great need for additional funding at that time. Today, it stands at 60%. One of the statements that was read that is really indicative, too, we read the statement that said, state government is not working, therefore local voters need to do more to protect the quality of education in their local public schools. 82% agreed with that statement. So the public really is giving up on Sacramento, and they're looking to you to figure out a way to provide the money that's needed, and this is certainly one way we can fix up our schools, and I think probably the best way to do so. You have the ballot language in front of you. It's pretty similar to what we used before, and asked for $2.8 billion in bonds on the poll. The interesting thing about that is we also tested $2.4 billion, we tested $1.8 billion, and the numbers didn't change. Right? And I say that because I think it's really important when you get down to brass tacks and you decide what to do with this, that we don't do what we did with Prop S and get ourselves in this position again and worry about, let's go for less, and make sure we get all the votes. It doesn't really matter. The public knows you have an incredible need. The public knows you have a need beyond $2.8 billion. I think we need to go for that bond at this time and fix up these schools. My own opinion as a parent is that every time we delay, you're losing a whole bunch of children between kindergarten through third grade that'll never get that opportunity again, and we know how important those years are. As a matter of fact, we know that's how we build jails, right? We look at third and fourth grade literacy, and the results of that tell us how many jails we need to build. So let's not delay and lose these people that are available to get a good education at that point. Okay, so the results of the poll. Will this pass or won't this pass? Well, the initial question was just reading the bond language, and 64% of the people said they'd either definitely, probably, or they're leaning in our favor to vote yes on that. I know there was some concern that when Prop J went out, there were numbers that led us to believe maybe that could pass as well, but they were very different. The numbers for Prop J were, I believe, 57% at that point. Do I get to continue? Or okay, sorry. I didn't know I was on a time limit. I would have. I'm sorry. Prop J, we started at 58% compared to the 64%. Okay. In this poll, when we start running a campaign on the poll, we get to 71%. Prop J got to 67%. The other two big differences Mr. Reinerson alluded to, 2010 was not a presidential election, very different type of electorate out there than there is in a presidential election. And much more importantly than that, a parcel tax takes 67%. So, if we ran the best campaign we could have got, could we have won the thing? I mean, maybe. If the stars completely aligned, it was possible to get that 2/3, but it would have had to be perfect. Now we're looking to get 55%, and our numbers are already better than they were at that time, and I think we will get there. So when we start to talk to these people and we give them the arguments in favor of the bond, and if you want, you can ask questions. I'll tell you what those were. But I mean, the basic things. We talk about the accountability of the oversight committee, and that the schools are in disrepair, and that the test scores at the district are going up, and you guys are actually doing a very good job, despite what you might hear in the echo chambers around town. We get 71% support. And then when we get other arguments, when we say, well, what if someone were to tell you that they're not doing such a good job and maybe they don't really need the money? Well, then it goes back down to about the 64% we started with. But you know what? We're going to run a campaign. I don't know if there'll be one against it. And even if there are, 64% is a heck of a lot more than 55%. I've run a lot of these campaigns. I'll sum it up by saying, I said this in the thing, if we can't pass this bond, then the people that are helping you do that as volunteers should find something else to volunteer their time with, because this is very, very passable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Lisa Berlanga.
Good evening. Thank you, President Evans, Superintendent Koba, board members. Lisa Berlanga with the California Charter Schools Association. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the district on the bond. We've been invited to the table early and have been part of the conversations. We are pleased that the slide up there said pro rata share for charter schools. We were included in Prop S, but we have not yet been included at a pro rata share. So we're very excited that on the outset that's being stated. And we are happy to support the district in getting this passed. The charter community, again, is excited to work with the district. We would like to do that working together, as Mr. Stover pointed out in his article, in the Voice of San Diego, his opinion article, that we should work together. And the charter community is happy to do that to support the bond if it moves forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board member questions and comments on this item.
Just real quickly, as someone who has, since 1998, looked at our deferred maintenance issues when I ran the Taxpayers Association, this is one of the toughest issues because I know as a board member when we have cash flow issues and we have to decide between funding a teacher and repairing a roof, obviously we want the teachers in the classroom, and unfortunately when we don't meet our needs on our major maintenance on the timeline, then a hole in a roof becomes a leak in a building, and if you don't replace a boiler in time or slurry seal parking lots, so it ultimately costs us a lot more money. And this bond will actually do what no public agency has ever done, really, is a plan to eliminate all the major deferred maintenance and fund ongoing deferred maintenance. And the other thing, for those of us who are concerned about the technology in the classroom, which we all are, and those of us who are parents and teachers, if we do not develop a new funding source, in 2.5 years, the technology that's in the classroom now is going to be ripped out because most of these netbooks only last 3 to 5 years, if we're lucky. And we have funding just enough to fund the 5 years. So, and there's no and we need $11 million a year. And so the board will be faced in a couple of years whether you fund teachers, counselors, nurses, et cetera, or laptops. Well, I think the reality is that we need to sustain that funding as well, and that's what this bond will allow us to do, is maintain this and upgrade the technology and to deal with our major maintenance and also truly save costs, I believe, in our electric bills, water bills, and so this is really different than any bond that's ever been done before. It's very strategic and being targeted to try to relieve the pressure on the future general fund. So we're looking down the road now. Instead of just saying next year, we're looking 3, 4, 5 years and saying we're going to be faced with these problems, so let's start planning for these now. And so this is what it's an exciting opportunity, and I look forward to the staff continuing its study and analysis and going from there. So I appreciate all the work that's been done to date.
Okay. Mr. Vice.
I absolutely support letting the voters decide. I think that's a part of the process, and I look forward to more of the analysis. But in thinking about letting the voters decide whether or not we want to address these long-deferred capital facilities projects, it's also very important to understand that by addressing some of these, we're actually alleviating pressure on the general fund, which is essential for educational programs and class sizes and music and other things that we value in all of our schools.
Okay. Agreed. I just want to make a couple of comments. Certainly, I appreciate what Mr. Barnett has done for years, having been on the Proposition MM Oversight Committee and reviewing what we're doing on Proposition S and looking at this one also. I mean, it's a lot of work in terms of looking at what our needs really are. I think part of the problem has been, the reality has been through the years, that it's been very difficult through the years to ask voters for as much as been needed, because we're facing facing decades of neglect of facilities, and it takes a while to catch up. And so what he's talking about is having a plan where we're actually getting ahead, we're keeping up to date on what we need to do, and so we're not spending extra money out of our general fund, which we need for teachers and operation. We're not spending that money on things that need to be repaired. I think one thing I would like to suggest in terms of on the calendar that we're looking at here in this February to June, February to April period, is one thing I would like to see. We have a lot of input here on different parts about the maintenance of the facilities and technology piece and so forth. I would like the superintendent, particularly the superintendent and the deputy for academics and others who are working on the strategic process for neighborhood schools for over the next 5 years and our Vision 2020 to really come up with a detailed analysis from an academic point of view of what we need to have excellent school facilities so that it's all woven together. And I know there's clearly a lot of that already in here, but we really need to think about not just continuing what we have and fixing what we have, but really thinking about how things might change in the future. For example, we've talked about consolidation of schools. So as we're getting kids to go more to the schools in their neighborhoods, there's going to be situations where we need to consolidate schools that have very small enrollment, where we need to expand or add schools in other neighborhoods where there are more schools needed. There's also the possibility of even other locations. If we think about being in the digital age and high school students being able to go to different places, and it might not always be to one big central high school. There may be other neighborhood outlets where some things are taking place. Even in terms of the classrooms themselves, how are they going to be configured with the technology that we have? What sorts of learning is going to be taking place? We really need to be thinking about what is the world going to be like in the year 2020 and beyond. One of the factors, too, we've talked about is neighborhood schools with services that really fulfill the needs of the neighborhood, and that's different in each neighborhood. And we might have to adjust some of the facilities to provide some of those social services that might be needed at particular schools. So that is just, I know this is just an information item, but that's my suggestion. I mean, this is obviously a huge amount of money. We spend a lot of time over every detail and every line in our budget, and we're talking about a really long master plan. And I think if we can have some sort of workshop where the staff is presenting to us, this is what our long-term plan is for our academics in our district, and this is how the facilities tie in, so that we're not doing something that isn't going to fit what we're going to need in the future, as well as building in flexibility for changes that happen. Mr. Brewer.
Yeah, and just going along with that, what would be very helpful when staff comes back and fleshes the plan out a little bit, I'd love to hear from Daryl the overall vision for how we sustain and, in fact, ramp up our technology program and how the bond measure fits into that. So that would be number one. Number two, how the bond measure specifically fits into our plan to increase sustainable energy sources would be the second. And then the third would be how the potential bond plan fits in with the future of our career technical education program that Sean could help provide. So those three areas specifically, if we could get into some detail about that, how this moves our technology program forward, our sustainability program, and our career technical education would be terrific.
Okay, good. So I think it's very clear we want a lot of good planning, Mr. Superintendent.
I appreciate the linking of strategic process to a bond measure, and I clearly took down your 3 points, Mr. Barrera. My final comment, because I believe that this is the right thing to do to go forward, we can't emphasize enough that this is one of the few means we have for local control. We're not dependent on Sacramento to regulate our destiny, that the generosity of the voters in previous bond elections going all the way back into the 90s has certainly been living up to expectations, whether it was the great buildings updated or brand new, the facilities, the savings, the protection of the tax rate. I think we're building on that legacy, and I think it's an important point, this trying to cut into a huge multi-billion-dollar backlog is something that our ad hoc committee on liabilities has examined and I think brought to the forefront. We should remember that across this district, almost 200 campuses and administrative support facilities, we have 7 decades of different types of architectural design, construction, and building materials. And with each year passing, the average age on our buildings, both permanent and portable, is, I think, well into the 40-year mark, and none of us would want to own a home in excess of 40 years in age, considering major renovation, safety, security, and yet we're housing facilities for a student population well over 100,000. So there are many good reasons why we need to do this and to welcome back the generosity of the voters in November if we go forward.
Just one other little point I wanted to editorialize myself in terms of it may be a little bit difficult, but some of the schools in my neighborhood and some other areas when they were built in the 70s and 80s were the sort of the prison construction architecture of schools, not very friendly, open environments, and we can't rebuild those schools, but anything that can be done to enhance the environment in them. And I'm sure there are many other places that need to be fixed up too. Okay, that is an information item, so we will now proceed to Section E, the superintendent's consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
There is a motion to move the consent agenda. Second, are there any public speakers on any consent agenda items?
I'd like to pull item E19.
E19. Okay. Okay. We have to speak on, yes, we have the speaker right now, a citizen on item E3.
I want to speak to the issue of the field trips. I have a lot of questions about the field trips item. I was looking at a tour thing, and I wanted to know why are students paying so much for these field trips in excess of $2,000? Why are teachers only reporting half of that value to the school district of just $1,000? When they take these trips and receive that benefit, is this reported to the IRS? Where is the money coming from to pay for substitutes for teachers, sometimes as many as 10 from a school? Where's the money coming from that? The UT reported that the field trip policy is being reviewed by the General Counsel, and I would like to know if that review has been concluded, and is there going to be a report to the public about it?
Okay, thank you. So we're pulling item E19. Are there any other items the board members want pulled? So the motion is to approve the agenda minus the E19, which we will address later. And seconded by Mr. Burnett. Okay, please vote. Thank you. 5-0. Okay. Now, Section F, student instructional matters. We'll start off with the Associated Student Body President's reports.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. As you know, our student council has been working on an anti-bullying week, which will be held the first week of March. We see that as a district this big, we need to have our own week that we celebrate, or not celebrate, but focus on getting rid of bullying, and we hope to keep it as an annual project that will continue on so that we can start the motion of anti-bullying and then continue it to hopefully rid it in the future. As we've proposed, which you guys will receive the proposal shortly, we met with our officers and came up with our mission statement, so hopefully we have your support on the issue. And each day will be there will be a strategic activity where we'll focus on either verbal, physical, cyber, any type of bullying that can exist. And also we'll have in-class workshops that hopefully even the teachers will get involved in distributing it to the students to get the whole campus involved. Thank you.
Okay, so I know this has been happening at certain campuses now. In the ASB Council, you're meeting with the presidents of all the ASB presidents of all of the schools. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so you're looking at it being district-wide.
Sorry.
You're looking at it being district-wide in terms of having these activities.
Yeah, correct. The district-wide anti-bullying week.
Right. Great. That's really good. And I just wanted to comment that when the student members have other agenda items that you want to comment on, be sure to raise your hand, and if I don't see it, tap on the back of one of their chairs, and we'll make sure that...
All right, thank you.
Or someone over there will tell me that you see them over there, so that we can have their voice in a lot of matters that we're discussing. Okay. Item F2, which we've decided is a first reading, the Career Ready and College Preparatory Update.
I'm going to ask Dr. Sid Salazar to come forward. He has been spearheading this endeavor for the last couple of years through research, community engagement, and then some additional crunching of the numbers. So I'll turn over to Dr. Salazar.
Mr. Salazar, just 1 second, please. I neglected on item F1. We have citizen wanted to speak on that item, and then we'll continue with this. I'm sorry for the interruption.
In ASB reports in the future, I would very much appreciate getting a report about the Associated Student Body funds. I have a lot of concerns about that because the audit committee continues to audit ASB funds, and there's a lot of misappropriation in ASB funds, and I think that the students need to have access to training so they understand ASB funds and how it should be spent. I don't think enough of that is done. I think that all the schools need to be sending their ASB representatives to the district for this type of training. That's not being done. The money belongs to the students, and they're not receiving the budgets, and they don't know basic information about their budgets and how to vote on those budgets. I brought a sample of one of the audits for Lincoln High School that was very disturbing, and in the future, ASB officers should have access to all the information about their finances. I mean, a $200,000 CD that exists, why are kids still having to fundraise when there's $200,000 in the bank?
Okay. Thank you. Now we will continue with the item with Dr. Salazar.
Thank you, Dr. Evans, Board President, Superintendent Koba, and members of the Board of Trustees, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Meyer, Mr. Stover. This evening I'm here to present to you our latest summary of the current update for the Career Ready and College Prepared initiative. Our original intent was to have request board action for request of funding, but as per your redirection, I will be presenting this as a first read and be coming back to you for that request. What you will have here in front of you today is a summary of action teams and advisory teams committee work. Since the implementation plan was adopted and approved by you, by all of you, we have since broken off into two types of teams, action teams and the advisory team. The action team is primarily in-house, internal staff that is working and actually doing the work to move the initiative forward, and the advisory team is primarily comprised of community members who will be then advising us as to the direction of the initiative and making sure that we are on task in terms of the implementation plan. Just to remind you, this initiative impacts next year's freshmen, the class of 2016, and the primary changes when Ed Trust West did the audit were in two areas, in world language and intermediate algebra, and since then we've also incorporated a CTE requirement that I will be discussing with you to some degree. I want to thank those of you who took an opportunity to accept my invitation and come meet with me to prepare for today's presentation. In terms of the implementation plan, we are on schedule. And every year, the last 2 years, we have focused on those cost-neutral items. So for 2012-2013 will be the first time that we will be engaging in activities and tasks that require more money. Keep in mind that the total projected costs for the initiative for next year is $2.8 million, and the requirements impact, as I said, the class of 2016. To give you a progress to date, again, we have been meeting with our advisory groups. We had our last meeting on January 18th, and we will continue with those meetings on a quarterly basis. In addition to that, I've been meeting or writing update board memos to all of you to keep you abreast of the actions that we've been taking on an ongoing basis, and then meeting monthly with the action team leaders that will coordinate their meetings with their own subcommittees. In terms of the action teams, at the beginning, during the implementation phase, as we were developing the implementation plan, we had 4 subcommittees and 4 kind of action teams, which are the first 4 bullets that you see here on the PowerPoint. Since then, we've added the communications action team, and Ms. Linda Zins has been very helpful as part of our communications department. One of the few members of our communications department, and helping us in developing our website and really perfecting the information and making sure that the information that's going out to the masses is correct. So we're looking for accuracy, web access, and publicity, positive publicity in terms of our initiative. What I will do now is give you a short synopsis of the type of work that has been occurring in each one of the action team groups. The first one is the C&I, or Curriculum Instruction Committee. That one, we've been looking at 6-period day schedules at high schools. We've been looking at enrollment in courses in the past in UC A through G, and making sure that there are streamlined courses and pathways in each one of these schools. This has been a very active committee, and since the inception of this committee, we've deployed personnel to different high schools as concerns have come up in terms of the CTE requirement within the different high schools. One of the concerns that we've dealt with is the number of pathways that are currently developed in our schools. We've been working very closely with our CTE Executive Director, Mr. Sean Loescher, and making sure that there is attention to that development of those pathways. An example in what particular high school we're looking at a green technology pathway. In addition to that, the other concern has been with our advanced placement international baccalaureate students. Dr. Meyer and I have been in consultation in terms of what we will do with these challenging schedules that these students have. And as we continue to brainstorm with other secondary principals, we are currently developing what we're calling an advanced studies pathway that will address the needs of those particular students. Please keep in mind that this initiative is to open the opportunity and maximize opportunities for students, every student, to engage in a post-secondary education upon graduation, as well to engage more knowledgeably in a career. That being said, the initiative is not going to create an obstacle especially for high-level students who are competing for perhaps IVY League schools or other prestigious schools in our country. So we want to make sure that we provide very clear information about that. The superintendent has met with our high school principals in their informal meeting, and subsequent to that directed me to meet with them to address some of these concerns. I've met with them at length, and we are developing solutions for these and creating a think tank representative of all your areas to ensure that these issues are being addressed. In terms of professional development, we're looking at specifically in the immediate future, looking at mathematics for obvious reasons, and I say that because we have the Algebra 2 requirement that the class of 2016 will be required for graduation. We're looking at their success rates in these core areas that you see here: history, English, mathematics, and science. Working with the principals, continuing to work with area superintendents in terms of developing information for their different areas and clusters. We have been an integral part of all of the counselor professional development to ensure that they have the information, that they're able to perhaps at the elementary level help us to develop a college-going culture, and then at the middle school level to help to advance the initiative by offering the correct coursework. In terms of student supports and interventions, Dr. Meyer will be presenting more formally as a first read now the summer school plan, but that gives you just kind of a synopsis of what the plan will be that she will be presenting soon after I finish my presentation. So we're roughly looking at 10 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, and 4 high schools. Acknowledging our budget crisis and the impediment that could cause for students to attend summer school, we're trying to be sensitive to that and cognizant as we determine the locations of the summer schools. Clearly, we're going to be seeing and analyzing where our students are failing and where the clusters are, both at the elementary, middle, and high schools at all 3 levels. As I said, that will be a separate board item that will be given to you as a first read. We are also currently engaging in not only surveying and getting a real close and read and identification as to what the current intervention practices are throughout our district. Because we are a large district, we have not in a coherent way established that in the past. But now we are attempting to do that in terms of looking at what those interventions are. Are they making an impact on student achievement? And if not, then sitting down with those area superintendents and those principals to ensure that those interventions are addressed or perhaps changed. The progress in terms of the Committee on Impact on District Departments, the major and the focus of their work has been on Administrative Procedure 4770. And this is the area where we're going to be looking at all the different scenarios and anomalies of students coming in late to our district, perhaps with different graduation requirements, perhaps from another state, and looking as to what's the alternative means for their successful graduation from our school district. Making sure that the new graduation requirements are addressed within Procedure 4770, and that anything else that's related to graduation will be addressed in that particular procedure. Looking at our course catalogs and having, again, a consistent way of messaging those course catalogs is going to be critical for the success of this initiative to ensure that all of our students, all of our stakeholders have the correct information. Currently, we have completed work on the mathematics success rates. We followed the trajectory of the class of 2016, looking at how successful these students have been in mathematics. And then we're going to be releasing in a consistent way to all the principals that information so that as they look at their master schedules, as they consult with their site council in terms of using Title I funds, they're able to then adopt and include in their programs viable interventions. In terms of communications, as I alluded earlier, we've been working very closely with that office, and we're not only looking at messaging our initiative, but also coordinating our website and linking our website to the viable post-secondary institutions that are within our county and throughout our state to ensure that people understand that that is the goal of our district, to make sure that students are not only career ready, but college prepared to enter a CSU UC system school. This area here is the funding sources, the information about what we are proposing in terms of successful implementation of the initiative. Clearly, we understand our ongoing budget crisis, and we were very sensitive to that. We've been collaborating extensively with the budget office, the finance office, to ensure that our numbers are correct and that we have good numbers based on the following years, taking step and column increases, any potential raises that are looming, taking all that information into consideration. After all that fact-finding, then we came up with the numbers that I'm going to be presenting to you today. Also, the funding sources that we're looking at district program improvement funds that could possibly be utilized for this initiative, EIA funds, lottery funds, and that's going to come under a separate presentation, Title II funds. Now, as we work with schools, many of our schools already have embedded in their programs, after-school programs, or perhaps programs that are embedded within the school day that are interventions for students. We are going to continue to promote that as they continue to use their own site funds and with their site councils to ensure that that information or that program continues within their school sites using their own categorical funds. So I want to make sure I make the distinction clear that the $2.8 million that will not have impact on general fund unrestricted are additional monies than what the sites have in their regular school allocations. Just want to make that clear. As I said earlier, this is the projected cost for the 2012-2013 implementation of the initiative. There are 5 major areas that we're looking at. The first one that we're looking at is counselor hourly. Next, we have professional development, mathematics support by area, instructional materials, and world language proficiency. I will now give you the detail on each one of those items. In terms of counselor hourly, of the $2.8 million, that's approximately $1.3 million, and we're proposing that we use program improvement funds for that particular item. Now, as we look at counselors and the importance of their roles as we're rolling out the initiative, at the elementary level, it's going to be very important that we start establishing a college-going culture for students, for parents, for teachers, even at that level, to know what the initiative is about, to understand it, and to be able to relate that to their communities. It would be very helpful to secondary schools as the students advance up the grades, that they have that knowledge, and so that we can hold each other accountable for the initiative as it continues to roll out. Keep in mind that a lot of this work was done by our old SB 813 counseling that used to occur. That funding no longer happens, and this takes into consideration that fact for counselors. In terms of professional development, we're looking at $487,000. The whole model that we're using, because we are a large urban district, we're looking at a trainer of trainer models. For example, 4 resource teachers, 2 in the math area, 2 in the world language area, will be helping to prepare training for 25 teachers that are representatives of the entire district. And then those teachers will be deployed back to their sites to then deliver that professional development during their professional learning community time. Again, that's the best way that we could think in terms of maximizing the dollars that we have and using the teacher leaders that we have throughout our district. In addition, based on the work that came out of the Professional Development Committee, there were strong proponents of using AVID throughout our district and quote-unquote advertising our district in the near future. So it was really important for us to put that on our request, and we're looking at funding 300 teachers throughout our entire district, would be grade 5 through 12, to train teachers, and then again having a trainer of trainer models. The focus here will be on strategies. Those of you who are very familiar with AVID, there's a strategy component, and then there's a tutorial component. The tutorial component would require additional monies that would perhaps at this point with our budget situation would be cost prohibitive. So we did not go there. We simply stayed with AVIDizing and using AVID strategies throughout our district and training our teachers. This just gives you a quick view as to why AVID. AVID is research-based. It's been along for a while, and it helps to prepare all students for college readiness and success. Complete alignment to what we're trying to do with the CRCP initiative. These are a list of the different highlights, different strategies that we will be working with. Some of our schools, an example is Farb Middle School, is a demonstration school for AVID, working with Susan and her staff to ensure that as we develop this trainer of trainer models, we're going to use our own internal experts to help us move this forward. You have in your attachments specific information about each one of these strategies. This here is the support that will be issued through our Deputy Superintendent of Academics. And the goal here is to have funding for those different needs that different areas from throughout our district may have in terms of to support those students who will be getting D's and F's. The focus will be and the priority will be on middle schools, high schools, specifically in the area of mathematics. So this work will be done in collaboration with area superintendents and our offices and the Deputy Superintendent of Academics office. Instructional materials. This will be a formal board presentation on behalf of Ms. Barbara Barron and her staff. This will be coming to you on April of 2012, but there are monies that have been identified there through lottery funds that are specific for any textbooks for growth that we will be needing. We're projecting that we're going to be in the immediate future needing perhaps world languages books in the different languages, and soon thereafter, as students advance throughout the initiatives, as the class of 2016 advances, perhaps needing more mathematics books. In terms of world language proficiency, we could use EIA monies upon consultation again with DAC, and that's the amount that we're looking at, $36,000. We are currently writing alternate assessments and have completed assessments for the 5 languages that you see up here: Arabic, Filipino, Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish. We are still completing the others that you see there. So we're looking at providing the opportunities for students who come in speaking a language other than English to be able to demonstrate their proficiency and test out of those particular and grant them the credits so that they can then proceed and open their schedules to have other opportunities to take other courses. This is a summary of our recommendations in terms of the amounts, the purposes, and the revenue sources. Again, as Ms. Jackson pointed out, we will be going now back to our different constituents to then vet it through them and making sure that we have feedback from them, and we will be doing so, and then I'll be coming back to you. The last slide was for action. Okay? That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Do we have board member comments, questions?
Yes,
Ms. Jackson.
First of all, thank you for making this my period, making this a first read, give us some time to look at this a little bit more. And thank you for the work that you're doing. I have a couple of questions. And I think that I heard you say at the very beginning of this that the funds that you're referring to, the schools have these funds or something to that nature?
Right. When I say site-based funds, Title I funds, consultation with SSCs, those are funds that are already part of the site's allocations.
Okay, because in the item it just said, when it said budgeted, it said no. So that was a concern that it was saying no, and then you're asking for this money, and you're saying it's coming from the schools, and so I just want to make sure that we had that really clarified, because I don't want the schools, bouncing off the wall saying that, hey, we're now telling them how to spend their money. So on page 5, if we can, as we prepare for this to come back, when it says the CTE courses and pathways, I asked how many and what they are so that we're very clear. I know we have a booklet somewhere that you can just provide for us. On page 7, you have a survey that is going on. I wanted to know how that survey is being conducted so we can have representation from across the district to ensure that we're getting good responses back from everyone. On page 8, certainly as you come back, and I just think it would be good that when we are updating our procedures, that's part of it, so that we can see that we actually able to see what the procedure is, what it says, and what the changes are, so that as it's approved, that we know what it is. Like I said, provide with the agenda when it comes back forward.
And if I may interject there, and that will be at the time when I come back, will be preliminary because that's a very lengthy procedure, but I can give you an update in all the different areas because eventually we'll come back for you to vote on that.
Yes, but I think you should highlight, like if it's paragraph number 10 on page 20 of it, okay, we should know that paragraph has been changed by these actions.
Got it.
Rather than waiting till the whole thing is done later on and we've already made some changes in it. Okay. And then I think you just answered it, because I think on page 11 I said schools have their site funding, and that was just the question I was asking you, if the schools are aware, and they are aware of it, then, and it's part of their already funding and they're participating, and that's fine. And then finally for me on page 13, I just put, how is this different from now? And certainly I know that I've been given this, supposedly this district staff development schedule, and I just asked for another copy, a hard copy. I just don't remember seeing the email for it. But could I please, this is, we had asked that the board be provided with the annual staff development PD, calendar, so that we have an idea of what's going on. My question here was, how is this different? How are we changing it from what we're doing now to, so when we talk about accountability, and we're saying that, we've had a period of time people become trainers, and they come back and they go to their school and they never come out and train anybody. And so I just want to make sure that, we have a good handle on that this particular time as we go through this process this particular time. And I thank you for your presentation and your time.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brewer.
Yeah, a couple of things. Thank you, Dr. Salazar. So on the question of a requirement around career technical ed courses, that has come up a lot. And it seems like there's two concerns. One is that students who are on a UC course would be distracted and would end up having to take courses that take their attention away from the courses that they believe are preparing them for their UC applications. And then the other concern seems to be around the idea that by requiring all students to take a career technical education course, we would, in a sense, water down the program, that we would take resources that could otherwise be focused, and we're sort of extending those resources out across. So could you, and maybe Dr. Meyer, talk about those two issues?
First of all, as we, in the near future, I'm also going to come to you with a presentation, a workshop on Common Core standards, or the new Common Core standards. Yeah. As we look at our rollout and working with the new Common Core, our initiative for CRCP is completely aligned to that initiative. Right. They are wanting us to develop a curriculum that will prepare students to be both career ready and college prepared, to have a hands-on kind of experience, and to continue to promote that career component of the standard. As we work with Sean and his staff, they have currently 50 courses, as I mentioned earlier, that are already, and many more on the docket, that are CSU UC A through G approved. So 97% of our students currently in the class of 2009, when we did the audit through at Trust West, 97% of our students already take one CTE course, and of those 97%, roughly another 83 to 84% take an additional one. We did modify that somewhat because we're making it a pathway, a corresponding pathway, so that was a modification to that, whereas perhaps in the past students have taken two courses that were not connected. So we need to look at all those anomalies. Definitely, as I said earlier, we're not in a position to create obstacles for those students who are already understanding that they're going to a CSU UC school straight out of high school. Yeah. So we are addressing those. We're working with Dr. Meyer. We're working with CTE. We are now meeting with principals. We're creating a principal think tank based on the meeting that our superintendent directed us to conduct, to ensure that we have all those different concerns on the table and not create obstacles for any student.
Right.
I can just share that was a concern that we had immediately, that we had students who were on track for taking multiple AP courses who had very little room in their schedule to accelerate, and they were very sure of the direction they were going. And it isn't just AP. I had a discussion with Mr. Beiser. It also includes a student who might be a journalism student and want to be in communications, who wants to take a more than 1 year in that particular pathway.
Yeah.
So we had a great discussion where we looked at opening up the possibilities with this advanced studies pathway. Secondly, I do want to emphasize, as Dr. Salazar did, that the CTE courses are often weighted as well as the AP courses. So if they're an honors course, they're weighted, and that they also, on occasion, receive dual college credit without taking a test. So that is a plus in some ways. And then lastly, I want to say that we do not want to water down any particular courses. We don't want to force students into a course where they do not have an interest. However, we do have students who aren't interested in math, and we put them in math. And so if we want to look at pathways where we are opening minds and opening up possibilities, the CCTE courses have a lot of potential.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dr. Meyer and Dr. Salazar. And we received a letter up here from Senator Mark Weiland, who has apparently some interest in expanding CTE courses around the state. And so we appreciate that, and maybe if there's consensus from fellow board members, we could ask the superintendent and Mr. Reinerson to reach out to Senator Weiland and perhaps explore the creation of a revenue source, talking to members of the business community to support the expansion of career technical education programs, at least in our district and perhaps statewide.
And we can certainly do that. I wanted to share with the board that I have talked to Senator Weiland recently, just a couple of weeks ago, about this, and he's expressed some interest to come and do some visits at our CCTE sites. He's been to Kearney High before, but we really need to do some education about the breadth of the programs that we have in our schools, and so we will, I've reached out to his district director just recently to look for some dates when we can bring him to another one of our high schools and really brief him on the breadth of the program and some of the things you heard tonight in this report. So we'll be doing that very shortly with the senator.
Right. Thank you.
Other comments, Mr. Pfizer?
I just have a couple of questions. First of all, this proposal, has it gone before the DAC for a recommendation or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, and will it before you ask for board action?
Yes.
Okay, great. Second, where is the Title I money coming from?
The Title I money, let me go back to that slide. Okay. When I say site-based Title I budgets, we're looking at the monies that the schools already have as part of their allocations.
Okay, so you're going to be sweeping some of that up and then using it to implement these programs?
That is not our intent. As I said earlier, the $2.8 million is separate from any of the monies that the sites are getting in their categoricals. So what we are proposing is that we work with our area superintendents and the principals to look at their SPSAs, look where the focus of the expenditures are, and to perhaps have a conversation with them in terms of how are those particular activities supporting the district's initiative of career ready and college prepared. That's what we're proposing.
Okay, so where does the Title I money come from again?
That comes from their allocations from the district.
From the schools?
Correct.
Okay, so you're asking us to take money away from school sites so that the schools can then implement some of these programs.
What we're not proposing to take any money away from the schools. What we are proposing is that we look at what the schools are focusing on in terms of how they're spending their money, and perhaps making suggestions on ways they can help with that money to support the initiative. That's in addition to the 2.8.
So then, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying then is that what you're going to do is go to the school site councils who decide how their Title I money is spent and make some kind of recommendations as to how to help implement A through G so that the school site council can then vote on that allocation to support students in their schools. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
And you don't need to answer all these now. I'm just going to give you a list of items. Number one, Can you, when you come back, bring back a multi-year budget rollout? Because I know this is a multi-year, and I've seen, numbers for the total implementation as high as, $16 to $32 million from the liabilities committee. So I think we need to see the multi-year rollout and then potential sources of funds in the future years, because we can start with this thing, and then if we don't have the funds to continue it, it could be interrupted. The item on the $1.3 million for counselor hourly support, I guess I need to understand how that relates to the current superintendent's current proposed budget on counselors. Is it to use existing in his budget counselors funds focused in this effort, or is this in addition to what he's currently has budgeted? The other item is, I think it would be helpful for me at least, to have maybe a couple of examples, models of a student, maybe an average student from different high schools, and to kind of see how this would work for them as far as their course of study. And this is the type of classes they traditionally already take, and of those classes, X number would already meet the CT requirement. And so then we could see, because right now there's a lot of confusion, concern, fear, etc., because nobody really has an understanding of what it looks like in the actual student's workload. So I think that would be helpful, certainly for me, and I think my colleagues as well. And to reiterate the issue that Mr. Barrera was raising, I think to really this CTE issue needs to be fully fleshed out more. And then all of the funds that you're talking, the program improvement funds, I mean, as I understand it, you answered Mr. Beiser's question, but if the site council doesn't agree with reallocating, say, existing proposed funds targeting these areas, then what do you do? Does that mean we fall behind in that school or that program, or does that mean we have to find other funds? So this $2.8 million, we need to, I guess we need to understand how that all works. And thank you very much.
Okay, just a couple of comments. I think along the lines of what Mr. Barrera and Dr. Meyer were discussing, I mean, this whole issue of the requirement versus making it available. On the one hand, we're telling everybody you need to do a college prep program, and then on the other side we have the career tech, and how do we make that work? I think the basic principle we want to operate on, first of all, is do no harm as we're trying to improve things. And so if there's a program that's working, I mean, for some students, and they're being very successful and they're going out and succeeding and so forth, we don't want to dismantle that in the process of some sort of one-size-fits-all program. We have to be very careful about that. As an example, with the AVID program, when you're talking about district-wide AVID, I'm a very strong supporter of that, and I've worked with a lot of kids who've benefited very much from that. But that may not be equally, that specifics of that program may not be equally necessary in every setting for every student, or there may be something similar that would be good. So I think it's just, again, not to put because something is very good, put a one-size-fits-all onto the whole district. And then in terms of the budget dollars, I know when we talked about the whole A to G career-ready college prep rollout, we had, it was a pretty substantial budget, and you had to, scale back in terms of what could be done, and you had to, first of all, make sure that it was only restricted dollars, because there's just absolutely no money available in the general fund unrestricted. And even within the restricted dollars, there are a lot of limitations. But for example, for the 12-13 year, we're talking $2.8 million. You were originally, in the plan, what was the dollar amount for 12-13? Wasn't it $10 or $12 million?
When I presented it to the liability committee, it was about $6.8 million, but in that proposal it also included summer school, and what I reduced were some of the teachers that are receiving professional development. All that was reduced by nearly half. And that's what brought the dollar figure down.
Right. And then the other thing that I already mentioned to you, but just to say here, was that to the extent that we have to scale back on anything, and we're not properly preparing the students or not providing the access or whatever, as we're moving along on our schedule or the schedule's a little behind, we need to make sure that nobody gets caught in between. That our goal is to have the class of 2016 do this, but if it turns out that there's some part of the program between now and 2016 that we haven't really implemented, we need to make sure on a group basis that we're not penalizing the class of 2016 for something that we didn't provide. And that's just dealing with reality. And ideally, we would like to implement all of this, but with the budget realities, sometimes some things are going to be a little bit slower. And again, just to not penalize the students for that. So, thank you very much for this presentation. This is very helpful, Dr. Salazar. Now we have the public testimony on this item. Again, this is just the first reading, so we're not taking action. So, pardon me? We have some on the blue sheet also. Okay. So several people want to speak on this item. We normally have about 20 minutes of testimony on this, and we have quite a few people. So I would ask you each to speak for a limit of 2 minutes. So you have the green light and then the yellow light for 1 minute. First of all, and please come up to the front when I call your name and then speak in any order. Carol Sobeck, Mary McDonald, Rosemary Cruz, and Molly Williams.
There's two more speaking at the same time, so they don't.
It's 2 minutes per person.
Is it okay for us to do it together?
You have a back and forth routine?
Yes, we do.
I think that would be more entertaining.
We sure do.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. We stand before you tonight representing two finely tuned teams, high school head counselors and their principals. I am Mary McDonald, head counselor at Mira Mesa High School, our largest district school. This is Carol Sobeck, head counselor at Madison, our smallest comprehensive high school. From large to small, our performance at a high school relies heavily on the counselor-administrator relationship.
You are the decision makers. With great respect for the immensity of your task, we feel obligated to make sure that you fully understand the many dimensions of responsibility carried out by high school counselors. Reducing the number of counselors in our district for next year would not only put our students' social and emotional needs in jeopardy at both the elementary and secondary levels, but the day-to-day operations of a high school campus would be greatly impacted without the expertise and hard work of counselors.
We are highly functional teams, and our schools reflect excellence because these teams do exist. Carol was named Outstanding Counselor in San Diego and Imperial Counties by San Diego State University in 2008.
And Mary, my sidekick, was the 2010 recipient of the California League of High Schools Regional Educator of the Year. In other words, these old gals really know what we're talking about.
Counselors team with their principals to carry out such important tasks as creating and balancing a master schedule, recruiting and enrolling students, orchestrating outreach to feeder schools and vertical articulation of courses, making sure diploma and A to G college entrance requirements are met for all students, presenting college nights and awards programs at all grade levels, recruiting students for AP and honors courses and conducting AP testing, implementing support strategies for KC test takers, creating interventions for special needs students and English learners, overseeing the NC2A eligibility program of our student athletes.
That's the first 2 minutes.
Okay, we're going. Okay. Counselors are serving as ombudsmen between parents, students, and teachers, writing advisory and college prep curricula, publishing newsletter and documents for parents, writing WASC accreditation documents, coordinating new student orientations, orchestrating 504s and student study teams. Are you exhausted already? I'm going to skip ahead a bit here.
This is only a snapshot of what a counselor contributes in a concrete way. One has to examine the bigger picture to understand the true value of the high school counselor. The counselor is the fulcrum of programming at each of our schools. Without an experienced and well-trained counseling staff, the entire campus culture suffers. Students would run the risk of missing graduation requirements, losing an NCAA scholarship due to course omissions, ending up in an inappropriate course without the thoughtful consideration of a counselor. The lonely student, the bullied student, the school-phobic student, the self-destructive student would lose a very valued advocate.
We know that you are trying to make responsible decisions in the worst possible of times. This is not the time to reduce our counseling force, not with the CRCP initiative with increased graduation requirements for the class of 2016 and beyond, not at a time when we are trying to increase dropout prevention efforts, not at a time when tragedies in the community impact our students on a daily basis. For everything, there is a time and a season. Not now.
Not now.
Thank you. Next week, I'll have Mr. Barnett do a routine with me talking about what school board members do.
That'll be fun. Hi, my name is Molly Williams, and I'm the school counselor at Cubberley and Alcott Elementary Schools. I just wanted to share with you that at Cubberley this year, I've been working with my principal to begin to implement the K-12 CRCP initiative, and we are excited about the ideas we've begun to put into place. Over the next few months, I will be working with our 5th grade students to explore and discover how their interests align with various careers, in addition to assisting them in researching what type of post-secondary education would be necessary to reach those career goals. The culminating event for our 5th graders will be a career fair in May, where we plan to invite the 5th graders from other area elementary schools to attend as well. We are currently working with the Counseling and Guidance Department and the College Career and Technical Education Department staff to assist us in organizing this event, and you will all be receiving a personal invitation to attend. This is only the beginning. With your approval of the CRCP funding request, all San Diego Unified K-12 school counselors will be given the time necessary to develop a college-going culture at their school sites, as well as the resources necessary to provide interventions and support to our students, ensuring that every student is career-ready and college-prepared. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Rosemary Cruz, and I'm the principal at Cubberley Elementary, and we've been working very hard to support our students' academic needs as well as the social and emotional needs, and we could not have done this without our school counselor, Molly Williams. This year, our counselor, in collaboration with our teachers, and I are working very hard to implement the CRCP initiative even at the elementary school level by providing our 5th graders with opportunities to explore and discover their interests in preparation for future careers and providing that motivation to learn at an early age. As our students leave us at the elementary level, the support and guidance we have provided, we want to know that it continues, and as an administrator with the hourly counseling support through this initiative for developing a college-going culture at every campus, providing interventions and support, and holding parent-student conferences to develop 6-year academic plans for 7th graders, to review a 4-year plan for 8th graders, and to review 2-year plans for 10th graders is very important, because this is where our students now will be in a few years. And with your support, the CRCP funding request for our students will have that much more support and to prepare for our students for the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Jacob Todd, Debbie O'Toole, Citizen, and Julie Kramer.
When you're ready.
Go ahead. Your name, please.
My name is Jake Todd, and my address is on record with the school district. I am a sophomore at Scripps Ranch High School. Students take AP and honors classes because they want the challenge and to be able to boost their GPAs to compete with other students around the country by taking electives of their choice. They take these because they want to specialize in the areas that interest them. 2 years of CCTE can significantly and negatively impact a student's weighted GPA. To give you a benchmark, there is not a single UC campus that does not rank rigor and GPA as very important factors when considering admissions. I am here to highlight the negative impact of the proposed CTE requirement. To put this on a personal level, I am a straight-A student and take 3 5.0 weighted classes. I take hard classes because I want the challenge and don't want to be bored. I am active in the Boy Scouts, the Marching Band, the Academic League, the mock trial, and the Model United Nations. When I grow up, I want to be an astrophysicist. When Mr. Beiser recently asked my English class who wanted to go to an Ivy League school, I raised my hand. I don't know if I will get in, but if I continue on my current path, I think I am a contender. I cannot do that if this CTE requirement goes forward. I don't want anyone to have to overcome a lower GPA forced on them by this requirement. Requiring 2 full years of CTE does a disservice to those students that work the hardest. One size does not fit all. For the many kids like me, going to college and having a challenging career is a given. I should have the ability and the flexibility to choose the courses I want to take. There is no reason I should have my elective courses dictated to me when I'm already clearly on a college and career path. We don't need career training exercises to learn we want to go to college. Mr. Beiser told my class to try their best and continue striving for those Ivy League schools. I ask that the school board please follow on that message and make CTE courses elective, so students will be able to reach for the stars of their own choosing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Debbie O'Toole, and my information's on record. First, I'd like to thank Ms. Jackson for making this the first read. I just attended with my 8th grader. I have a 9th grader, an 8th grader, and a 5th grader, and we just attended her get ready for the 4-year plan, and we had, 700 people in the room, and we're all just shaking our heads, not understanding. So I'm going to read what I wrote. I've written it 4 times today. It's changed. I got a parent calling me saying, oh, the district says this, oh, this is happening. So I'm just going to read what I wrote originally. One thing I am certain about the graduation requirement changes is this: confusion. Each time I wrote this speech, I had a phone call from a mom who said, the district just said there's flexibility in the CTE. Then I hear from somebody else, no, you have to take the courses that are outlined at your school. I think the ball was dropped here. A parent workshop needs to be held at every cluster to explain the requirements in language parents understand. I met with a high school counselor this week, and there are questions he didn't know how to answer. A parent emailed me and said that she heard from some at the district that, I already said that it was flexible. Nowhere in any document I could find that said that the CTE was flexible. But here's what it says. Class of 2017 and thereafter must complete a 2-year CTE sequence, including a capstone course from a single CTE pathway. And we parents look at that and go, huh? We don't understand what that means. There's all these words, and I tried Googling what pathway is for CTE. It just doesn't make sense to us. So here we are, we're having to plan my daughter's 4-year, and you guys brought up some good points that we're all concerned about, that we don't know which direction we're taking. I have my 9th grader is an artist. She already knows what school she wants to go to, and she needs to take, a bunch of art, AP art. And she's okay because she's not in that area, but it's just not fair to us. So here's my 2 cents. I think it should be the G part of it should be flexible. That kids should be able to choose those 2 courses. What was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, in the end, though, I don't know how you can vote to start this program, as it will cost millions of dollars when we're increasing class sizes and laying off teachers and counselors. Perhaps we should vote to delay the implementation until the economy improves. Thank you.
Thank you.
I oppose the approval of this plan, and I want to state that the people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for them to know and what is not good for them to know. And in previous board decisions, when the board has established a policy that was good for kids, that the teachers supported, that the parents advocated for, that's not what the district does. Here it is in the newspaper, and the school district did not ask for a correction, so this is the correct school policy that was adopted. And yet I received a letter from Nellie Meyer telling me something different. And that's why parents are concerned, because they're going to be told, oh, there's flexibility, oh, you can do this, or you can do that, and yet we can't even access information. I have been trying since August to look at the master schedules, but they're a secret. I've asked Sid Salazar's office. I couldn't look at them. That's important in trying to implement a program like this. What are the master schedules at the schools? And I was not allowed to look at them. I asked general counsel in the legal office. I've still not been provided with the master schedules. The graduation requirements at schools, at high schools, are not the same. It's important that they have a better look at what the requirements are now. For example, eliminate the senior exhibition. It's very time-consuming. The employees that were used to implement this very time-consuming and costly program have been eliminated, and that work now falls on other employees. Sweetwater eliminated it. Why are we doing a program when colleges months before have already told these students that they're qualified to go to college, and yet we're still insisting on a senior exhibition? And we're talking about kids that are taking AP classes and CTE courses at very high levels that have already made plans months before.
Thank you. Matthew Yagiagan, Toby Schwartz, Judith Wessling, and Andrea Guerrero.
Good evening, board members. My name is Matthew Yagyagan, and I work with the Equality Alliance of San Diego County. And very briefly, I'm going to give you some points on why I support the funding request for the CRCP implementation plan. First of which is that 7 in 10 new jobs in our economy require a college education. Our students need to go to college if they want to fill these jobs. This initiative prepares for career in college by enrolling them in a rigorous college prep curriculum with the necessary supports ingrained within them to ensure all students have the tools to become successful. Only 4 in 10 high school seniors right now are prepared for college in our district. This initiative will raise that rate. Secondly, the payout of this implementation plan extends far beyond the classroom. It's an investment in the local economy by educating students enough to get into college, graduate from college institutions, and secure good local jobs. By funding this implementation plan, you aren't just investing in the future of our students, but you're investing in the future of our local communities and our local economy. Thirdly, I understand that you're strapped for cash, this district is, but you must remember that not only did you vote for this curriculum change, but parents, students, and community leaders came out and supported it. This the amount requested is just a small fraction of 1% of the overall budget. Lastly, let's do this for our students. They're capable of doing big and bright things, so let's hold them to those standards. We've already made a commitment, so let's stay the course. Thank you.
Evening, I'm Toby Schwartz. I'm one of the counselors at Mission Bay High School, and I want to kind of talk about a little bit about the IB and why it's successful, because we're graduating our first class of students who had the middle years program all the way up. And you look at a program that was implemented properly, we're almost double our students are applying to 4-year college this year. We're up from 20% last year to 40% this year to 4-year colleges. My favorite number right now is where our students are a Tier 4 student on the eligibility index. 2 years ago, we had 2 students apply to UCLA. Last year was 8. This year we have 40. We doubled our students applying to SDSU. And, this is just something that was done right. And if we're going to do the ADG requirements, which is worth doing, it's worth doing right. We need to fund it properly. And if you want to see examples of master schedules and ways kids can do it, the CT is talking about with the IB certificate career courses, implementing the same types of programs, which are very well respected at the colleges and things like that. So there's ways to do it. And just, let's do it right, do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Judith Westling. I live at 4968 Foothill Boulevard in Pacific Beach. I had children in San Diego Unified from 1970 to 1987, but right now I have 4 grandsons at La Jolla High School, Muirlands, Mission Bay High School, and PB Middle School. And I became aware of this project only about a week ago, and I've tried to read as much as I could on the website. It's very hard to get all this information together in one place, and a lot of it is somewhat hidden from the average grandparent and taxpayer. I don't agree with the imposition of these new graduation requirements. As far as I can see, each high school will only have a selection of these courses. I did download a page which has 3 pages of UC-approved courses so far. But the students at one of my high schools will be forced to choose something to satisfy this requirement for the younger kids for the 2-year course. My objection, however, is money. The district and the state finances are shaky, as far as I can see, and I think people agree. The general public, to me, seems very negative about requests for more money. The fund request today, that's $2.8 million, looks to me very cobbled together, including that dodgy source, the lottery. I don't think this project is revenue neutral. How can you think of adding courses and required courses at that when the budget is in crisis? One of my principals reduced his office staff this year. Next year he has to reduce 15 positions, and that will include teachers. How can you do this when the budget is in crisis? Where is the money to guarantee the longevity of this program? Let's concentrate on our current programs and not add new ones.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm Andrea Guerrero, the Executive Director of the Equality Alliance. We are a parent engagement organization and a voter mobilization organization that will be working vigorously to support revenue-generating measures in November. We were instrumental in the passage of the CRCP policies, and we absolutely support funding these policies. $2.8 million is a fraction of your budget. In a nearly $1 billion budget, this is a worthy investment. It goes to the very core of your mission, stated on the wall, to prepare students to succeed in their choice of college and career. If we're not investing in that mission, what are we doing? As my colleague and excellent example of A through G preparation, Matt Yagiagan, said, this is an investment not only in our students, it's an investment in our local economy, it's an investment in our democracy. It's allowing people to fully participate in our economy and our democracy. So I know this is only a first reading, but I support going forward with funding with this program. It's essential. I know there are a lot of unanswered questions, important questions that have been raised both by the board and by the previous speakers, but I have full faith that they can be answered by your excellent staff and that we can press forward on this important initiative. Thanks.
Thank you. I have one speaker I did not call, Charles Deal.
Thank you for squeezing me in. I signed up online, but I don't know what happened here.
No problem.
I'm a parent or Charles Deal, and apparently you have my address. I'm a parent with a student at Madison High School, and I'm on here on behalf of the counselors. I wrote this thing out. I'd just like to read it real quick. College bound and college ready. That's our school's motto. But who is really responsible for making this happen? It's not the obvious answer. Our principal is busy trying to make ends meet with his limited budget that he has given. Our teachers are busy teaching their courses and getting the students ready for the high school exit exam and their STAR testing. So the answer is, it's our counselors. We have 3 amazing counselors at James Madison High School to help guide our 1,164 students. A monumental task, yet they do it well. Our head counselor is Ms. Sobek. There are not enough adjectives to describe how dedicated and devoted she is to our students, our parents, and our school. Our counselors spend countless hours going over each student's class schedule. They make sure the SAT prep classes, they hold meetings for the students and the parents so we understand what the colleges are looking for. They let students know about all the scholarship opportunities available to them and how to apply for them. They also hold Saturday classes for students and parents to help fill out their FAFSA forms. I, as a parent, would have had no clue on how to send my son to college. I have a son that graduated, and Ms. Sobek just guided him right through it. And so I ask you, what does college bound and college ready really mean? To me, it means saving our counselors. And I really thank you for squeezing me in.
Thank you. Okay, that was a information item, so we will be bringing that back for a decision. And now we have the other one is the summer school program proposal and funding request. Dr. Meyer.
Yes. If I could start off talking about summer school by thanking the College Ready Career Prepared team, the community members, the principals, the teachers, Sid Salazar and his office who work together to ensure that we have access and equity for students. One of the main tenets of the College Ready Career Prepared initiative is ensuring that students are on track and ready to graduate, and when they do, they are equipped to succeed in a career or college of their choice. The item F3 is really one of our last efforts to ensure that this happens. The summer school item before you is a result of a board direction to have interventions at grades 1, 3, and 8, and as well to ensure that we do whatever it takes to ensure students graduate in a timely fashion. That being said, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what the summer school item entails and share with you the funding and plans for moving forward. First of all, the elementary program is a 4-week program, and we are currently looking at the sites, but we plan to have 10 open sites to serve approximately 1,500 elementary students at grades 1 and 3. And we have reviewed data that was, it's fall data, so we're going to tighten up the numbers, but we're looking at CST proficiency rates to see where students are falling behind, and we want to have a safety net for those students. The middle school program is also a 4-week program, and this program will be available at 4 open sites. And I want to note that we're making sure that the sites are located across our geographical boundaries so we can open access to students. Without transportation, we will need to ensure that we have locations that are spread out. And this will include approximately 600 students who are at risk of retention in grade 8, and that's in alliance with the board policy. But we want to give students one last opportunity before they start high school to make up all of the credits necessary. In addition, there is a recommendation for a bridging program, and we've had a variety of bridging programs over the years. This is a bridging program that is aligned with our college career readiness program to really give students information right before they enter 9th grade, and it will be a one day across all of our campuses. So the bridging program will serve approximately 7,200 students, all of our 9th grade freshmen. And as they enter in the fall of 2012, we hope this will get them off to a good start. And as we move forward, as I mentioned, one of the last things that we are able to do is in 11th and 12th grade give opportunities for credit recovery and repeating of courses. And so as a result, we are recommending that we have 4 open campuses. Last year we had 2 open campuses, and frankly it was difficult because we had one at Lincoln and one at Madison, and many students who fell in between had difficulty getting to the campuses. So we are recommending to increase to 4 campuses. We anticipate serving approximately 600 students with this summer school program, and we also hope to provide online credit recovery, which will be responsible for recovering additional credits in addition to those 600 students who will be served one-on-one or in the classroom with teachers. I want to also note that we have a grant opportunity, and our iHigh Virtual High School has a grant where we will be offering first-time mathematics courses, and this will help students who are at other high schools. They can dual enroll in iHigh over the summer, and it will also help iHigh, so they will have an opportunity to increase their courses over the summer. So that will be an opportunity available to high school campuses, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share that. Principal Patty McIntyre has encouraged me to share that often. To also share, La Jolla High School, as part of their MOU, they receive monies where if we have a program across the campus, they do also offer summer school classes. So that will be something that we are recommending to have again this year as well. And then lastly, as part of the funding, one of the things that we have done for the last several years is give an opportunity for students to have an August graduation. And we started this program because students who took the high school exit exam and were going to receive their scores, they took the exam in May and they were not going to receive their scores until after the graduation had occurred. And our board policy directs that we do not let them walk in the ceremony. So as a result, we opened up an August graduation, and at this graduation we let students who took summer school classes and were able to graduate participate, as well as students who passed the CASE and found out late. Very frankly, we have very few students who pass the CASE and find out late, but they are also often enrolled in summer school and are making up those courses, and so it is something that that we anticipate with a cost of approximately $2,000. It's held at a high school campus, and that entails money for supervision and other transcript work that needs to be done. So the cost of this item that we're bringing forward for a first reading is approximately $1 million. And it is, the breakdown is attached. We are considering similar budgetary sources. I have confirmation that tomorrow night the DAC will be consulted to discuss this as a possibility, but we are also looking at other funds, including a proportional second language support, because many of the students we're talking about participate in second language programs. And then also we are looking forward to our program improvement monies that we are going to receive because we are in year 3 program improvement. One of the reasons we're in program improvement is because of our graduation rate. So this directly impacts how the money is supposed to be used. So for all of these reasons, we will bring back this item, and this particular summer school item is very important to the students who participate. Thank you.
Okay, is first reading any staff comments before we move on? Okay. Then we will go to item G1, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded. Please vote. And now we have item H2, which is the resolution to regulate the financing of school board elections. Mr. Barrera.
Yeah, thank you, President Evans. So what this resolution does is it simply brings the school district into a framework that's consistent with, for instance, the City Council or the County Board of Supervisors, where individuals can contribute to school board member campaigns. However, political action committees, contractors, including contractors that do business with the district, unions, organizations, cannot simply write an organizational check to a school board member's campaign. And I think that it's important that we take a step to, as much as we can possibly do, eliminate the influence that sort of organizational or corporate money in particular has over school board campaigns, and so that's why I'm bringing this resolution forward. So
no speakers
I move
on this
this
item.
resolution.
I have a question.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
I have a question or two of the Mr. Shanky. If the board acts on this, when does it go into effect? Like tonight?
Tonight.
Okay.
Tomorrow as
well. So, because I know there's been a number of candidates who have at least been in the newspaper talking about running already for this spring. I think some candidates took out papers today. What if candidates have already solicited and accepted funds under the current law, which allows them to take from any source but up to $750, and they have it in their account, and now the law changes tomorrow, and new candidates maybe will get in and will have different rules and maybe can have the opportunity to collect money. How does that work?
It works the way it works. I mean, it doesn't change. You generally don't make these retroactive simply because when the folks were getting together to run for election, the rule wasn't in existence. But from this point forward, then there would be no organizations. Now, I guess the question is, could this have done earlier?
Well, no, I mean, it's if candidates have collected money that under the current
rules, they wouldn't be in
rules,
violation of this because they collected it under the previous.
So then could subsequent candidates state, well, there's an unfair advantage because people have collected funds under the rules, and we're literally changing the rules in the middle, 3 months before the election. And in a sense, they get an unfair. I don't know if anyone's collected money. I'm just saying that if we're going to do something literally in the middle of the election.
That question. All I would say is that if they gathered it before, then they were under the old rule, and if this passes tonight, there will be a new rule. At such a point in the election, in my view, wouldn't be unfair because now people have the opportunity to restructure and go forward. The filing period just opened. It closes, I think, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
March 6th.
And then, of course, the primary is in the first Tuesday in June.
So you don't think there's a potential legal challenge if people have collected funds under the old system from all these sources which are now would be banned under this, and another candidate could say, well, how come they had a right to do that and I don't? Then that's not a concern.
Haven't been asked that question before, so I don't have an answer right now. I just don't.
As a candidate for the election who's yet to raise funds, I would happily accept the unfair advantage if another candidate has already started to raise money from PACs.
Yeah, but it's not about you. It's about the law and the rules.
Well, you just mentioned, would candidates. I'm just saying, as one candidate, I would happily accept that unfair advantage.
Well, that's nice of you, but the rules would apply potentially differently to different people who are running for office at different times. So to do this at this point seems kind of in the middle of the game. Secondly, who enforces, because right now we file with the county and then the state on our disclosure forms, and the city has their own enforcement agency and an ethics commission. And then how would you, if someone did collect funds, how would you know when they collected them? Like if someone, would they have to say, okay, if I collected it under the old system, you have to show you deposited it in the bank? Who enforces that then? Do we?
You're looking at them.
So you would have to go through the campaign disclosure statements, which you don't do now, to determine
This is my first election here in the district. My answer would be I go through them, yes.
So do you?
Or someone on my staff, obviously.
Well, currently our staff does not have any role in reviewing campaign statements. It's the county, and we rely on the county. The only thing that we have that's different from the state law is a contribution limit. We don't limit the sources. of it. So that's the only difference. So does that mean that you're going to have to now...
No, there's been a resolution in effect for a number of elections, as I understand it.
But our staff has never, as far as I know, our legal staff has never reviewed actual contributions, determined whether they are consistent with...
No, as I understand this resolution, it's complaint-driven. But I certainly have the authority, or I have the authority to hire outside counsel to look at the statements if we want to do that. But it's generally complaint-driven, as I understand it.
Lastly, the City of San Diego, to make something consistent with the City of San Diego, I think this will do two things. It will give more power to independent expenditures, because those people will then basically have less ability to raise money. And most importantly, it doesn't solve anything. What happens to the City of San Diego is, instead of a company X contributing to a candidate, you have dozens and dozens of employees who work at that company then contribute. So is that any more transparent? It's actually less transparent, because they're in fact contributing, and they may be working for developers or labor unions or whatever the other evil sources you're talking about, and dozens and dozens. So it doesn't make it more. In fact, it makes it less transparent. This is just a political gimmick. The city is, and it's also I'm not on the ballot, so it doesn't affect me. But it seems absurd, and also I think opens us up to inconsistent laws and enforcement. We're going to now have to have our attorney go through and review our campaign disclosure statement. So I think if we're going to do this, let's set up a committee, set it up for the next election. Then it will affect those of us who are running next time. So I'm not saying it shouldn't affect me, and then let the citizens involved, instead of sort of just say knee-jerk, this should be consistent with the city. And actually the county, I don't believe, is the same exact rules as the city. So anyway, I think this is kind of a knee-jerk political thing, which is not going to do anything to remove any of the influence of money in elections. It's just going to shift it around and make it less transparent. Plus, it opens us up to potentially some legal challenges and more staff time getting involved in our elections. So I can't support this.
Other comments? I'll say that I do support this, and I understand that money in elections is a very complex issue, and there are all kinds of loopholes and exceptions and so forth, so it's very difficult to do. I mean, ultimately, my ideal would be a clean election system where candidates for office were not raising money at all, but were going out and speaking about the issues and talking to voters, and that it would be publicly funded once they had shown that they had a certain amount of support within the community. Now, that's the ideal, and that's not where we're at this point. And certainly we do not have any control over independent expenditures either currently or after this either. But I do think that there is some value in only accepting contributions from individuals. I think organizations, whether they are businesses, labor unions, PACs, other organizations, there's the potential of influence, there's the potential of perception of influence, even if there is not the influence. And so I think it just leaves it to the people who are running for the election, who hopefully will be involved with the community and will talk with individuals and will raise the money to do that. So that's why I'm in support of this. Okay, no further comments. Please vote.
I have a question.
Okay.
It says here that there's no numbering system or pages systems or anything. I have a question here. It says, no political party is defined by Elections Code Section 5100 or political party committee as defined by Government Code Section 85205 shall make any contribution to or expenditure on behalf of a committee directly supporting or opposing a candidate which will cause the total amount contributed to or expanded on behalf of that committee by that entity in support support or opposition to a candidate to exceed $5,000 for any single election. So if let's say the Republican Party was sending out a slate mailer to all the Republicans in the city, letting them know who they've endorsed, would that be, if the cost of that slate mailer was in excess of $5,000, could the party still include who they've endorsed in the election to inform voters that are so inclined with their party?
Well, I would understand that to be an independent expenditure, because it's not directly provided to the candidate or at the direction of the candidate.
Okay, so then expenditures like slate mailers by parties and things like that are not included.
Not under the
But Mr. Schenk, as I understand the law, parties, you can coordinate with candidates where independent expenditures can't. Now, I'm not an expert in campaign law, but I've been involved in a number of campaigns over the years, so I think there needs to be clarification of what the impacts of this are, and clearly we've just raised a few questions tonight. We don't know what they are, and why do you want to rush through and do this? What's the reason?
Well, I start to remove corruption from school board elections. That's
we have
the reason,
corruption
Mr.
in school board elections?
Well, we've seen it around this county, apparently. So.
Well, you mean in Sweetwater where they have no contribution limits? Zero? So how does this remove corruption from the school board election? Tell me how it does it.
It eliminates a school board member or a candidate from getting a list, for instance, of contractors with the district, going down and calling those contractors and saying, all you have to do is write an organizational check to my campaign. It eliminates that process, and I think that's an important safeguard for the public.
So they can't go to the same list of contractors and call the owner of the company and say, hey, your company can't give to me, but I sure would appreciate it if you and any of your employees are interested in doing so, and therefore on the disclosure it won't say from the contractor, it will say from an individual, so in fact it hides it further. Well, it doesn't remove corruption.
A candidate that would do that, or an employer that would do that, would, by your description, be in violation of bundling laws.
No.
Yes, they would.
If you say to a contractor, say, Mr. Jones, I would like it if you could contribute, and I would encourage as many of your employees who want to contribute to me. That's not bundling.
Yeah, it sounds like bundling.
No, for a company to say we want this person that's in our best interest. If you look at the city disclosure, what you're trying to avoid, you can look at all the big developers and the contractors, all the people who you say are corrupting the system, and you can see literally dozens and dozens of names of people from those companies, from their employer. Well, the employer didn't tell them to do it, but it's still money from people who have it work at those companies. So how does that reduce corruption? It doesn't. It just masks it. It masks it and makes it less clear. In fact, it makes it more opaque. So you're not solving anything here. You're just shifting it where you are actually making it so it can be more obscure now, because those companies can say, we didn't contribute to council member X, but 50 of their employees did. That's what happens at the city every election.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing about this which encourages bundling. There's nothing about this which makes the contributions more obscure. There's nothing about this which encourages independent expenditures. All of those are red herrings, Mr. Barnett. This is about simply eliminating the practice of candidates asking organizations or corporations to write a company check to a school board campaign.
Right.
That's what this is doing.
And if you actually reviewed campaign contributions to city council candidates, I've been involved in a lot of campaigns the last 10 years, and there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of contributions from companies that all happen to be the same employees, and lo and behold, they've contributed to candidates. So if you're saying the city is your model, you are not reducing the impact of money and people who have interest in the results of the elections in that. This is just, it's a facade. It's not solving it. It feels good to say, well, we're getting rid of special interest money, but you're not. Every member, you can have it go to employees employees of the labor union say, hey, boy, we'd like you to support Richard for school board, and then they write $100 checks. How's that any different?
It's what we have the power to control. We don't have the power to control independent expenditures. There are obviously laws against bundling.
Sure.
Those are in place whether we pass this or not.
Right.
What we do have an ability to control is stopping candidates from asking organizations to write a company check. And that's what this is about.
Okay, so the motion is that to not allow contributions from organizations and only from individuals, and there are different...
Well, what about Mr. Beiser's question? Because I don't believe, and on frankness, Mr. Shanke, that your answer was accurate on the issue of the political parties and independent...
I read the case law, Mr. Barnett. I am an attorney. I've been licensed to practice law for 30 years, so my answer is the way, under the Thalheimer case, which was just decided, the U.S. District Court has said political parties can be restricted to making direct contributions or at direction of candidates, but it has to be a certain amount of money that makes it reasonable for a party. In other words, what the court said was somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000. I picked 5. It could be 10. It could be 15. It could be 20. That's a constitutional requirement, and that's the way I wrote it. I mean, you don't even have to have this resolution at all. All I'm saying as a lawyer is, if you're going to have a resolution like this, it has to read this way.
I'm just saying that Mr. Beiser's point is if a party spends $5,000 on a door hanger, for instance,
right,
then I think your question was, does that foreclose additional expenditures by the party on behalf of that candidate? I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I believe that was the question you asked. Mr. Beiser, is that correct?
His question was whether it is a covered expenditure or is it an independent expenditure. My viewpoint is it's an independent expenditure. If the party comes to 2 years to Mr. Beiser and says, I want to put your name on a slate, then they have an issue. If they just decide to pick the candidates and put them on a slate, that's an independent expenditure. The whole world of campaign finance was changed a year and a half ago by Citizens United. So, you may be right, I may be wrong, but we don't know. But my reading of Citizens United is that's an independent expenditure. I could be wrong, but rarely am I.
But you're talking about the Thalheimer case, which was not Citizens United.
No, it's not, but the Thalheimer case also acknowledges that the world has changed after Citizens United, that what an independent expenditure is and what a directed or direct expenditure is are two different things.
We're going to have to put money in the budget for enforcement, because if it's complaint-driven, there will be complaints, as there always are, on people who don't support whomever it is they're supporting, and then the attorney will have to review those complaints, and he's going to have to spend staff time on it. So I think you're going to have to look at the fact that we don't really know what we're rotting here, except some symbolic thing which isn't going to remove the money. So we need to prepare that the attorney's going to have to spend time on political campaign enforcement, which they have not done up to now, where the state's done it, the Fair Political Practices Commission has done it, and we'll have to spend money on that. And I think we need to know what the potential cost of that's going to be.
Well, by that logic, we should just have no campaign contribution limits. Because if
no, the state enforces it now, Richard.
Oh, okay.
Right, the Fair Political Practices Commission.
Limits.
Yeah. No, they do. The state reviews it. The county,
the ones that our district sells.
The only the state does is the reporting of the contributions.
And the county does it.
There's no limits. If you repeal this resolution tonight, there would be no limit. Most school districts have no limit.
Right, I understand. We are very unusual. Sweetwater has no limit. The one that we're very rare in that we're one of the few districts that actually has a limit on contributions.
Right.
Okay, are there any new issues to bring up on this? Okay, if not, please vote. We have to reset.
I already voted earlier.
She voted.
You guys took so long. My vote wore out.
Okay, that passes 4-1. Okay, now we come to the MOU with CSEA regarding this is for the current year 2011-12 furlough days. This is a cleanup item. Mr.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
And now we have the adoption of the tentative agreement to amend the memorandum of understanding with.
Order. The last vote has occurred.
Okay.
I'm
Ready
sorry.
to vote again?
Thank you. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Visor. And also, pardon me? The police, the POA agreement. Do we have items in here?
H4?
It is H4, so we can look in section H. And yes. Wait. H4, yes. Right. Right. And to present the basic idea, what the Police Officers Association has agreed to is continuation of the 5 days of furlough unpaid, which we have had for the past 2 years, continued into the following year. It is foregoing the raises that were scheduled to take place in 2012-13. It was to cap the health care benefit, which was the members paying the differential between the Kaiser and the more expensive plans. So basically the first two items were status quo. There was a change in terms of the health care benefit, although for many employees they still will continue to receive free health care if they elected that plan. And then the other issue was the contingency in terms related to the ballot measure in the fall, which is a 6% salary reduction, which the Police Officers Association will begin having deducted from their check at the beginning of the fiscal year, starting July 1st, or starting with the pay period that begins on July 1st. And that would continue up to the time of the ballot measure. If the ballot measure passes, they would be refunded that money. If it doesn't pass, we would look at what would be the equivalent of a 6% pay cut, but in the particular case of the Police Officers Association, it would be 15 furlough days. So we have one speaker on this item, Mr. Jesus Montana. Thank you for staying late, Jesus.
No problem. I'm already in trouble for being here on Valentine's Day. With a little more time. Oh, jeez. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Superintendent Koba and Deputy Superintendents, good evening. First of all, I wanted to start by saying I want to thank you for all the time that we spent discussing this, I want to say since last May. But also for the staff that you sent in your place during the negotiation, particularly Ms. Donovan and Ms. DiBernardo and their staff. They truly exhibited their professionalism and dedication to come to an agreement between the POA and the district. It was evident that their best interest in hand was not just protecting money from the district, but to protect the interests of the employees and, of course, our students. The way we handle this as a POA is we turn to our membership and ask for their direction on where to go with this. And we turned it to our membership to tell us how to negotiate and what were they willing to give up. I will say this is not a great contract. It's actually bittersweet. It's bitter because we remember the good old days, which is probably already in our history books when we used to have money in this district. We got pay raises over time. We're not number one in the county as police officers, but we still got raises to at least meet the COLAs. This contract will hurt. Boy, will it hurt. Our memberships will be looking at a take-home decrease anywhere between what the ranks of a community service officer, which could be as low as $200 a month, and we represent all the way up to and including sergeants and lieutenants at a certain level as associate members. But in this contract, it will be our sergeants, and they're looking possibly as high as $600 a month of what they will be losing. But the sweet part of this contract is that the board kept its word. If our membership came in and gave concessions, that there will be no layoffs of any of our employees. While it's great that we will be employed for the next year and a half now, it takes the pressure off our officers so that they can concentrate on what's important, and that's protecting our students and making sure that they keep a safe learning environment. More importantly, it will allow us to meet our mission, which is to provide a safe learning environment. And as you can see in all of our police cars, to protecting our future. So today, on this Valentine's Day, I don't know what kind of love I'll be getting at home. I do ask, in behalf of the men and women of the San Diego Schools Police Officers Association, to please show us some love and vote to approve this contract. Thank you.
You got it, man.
Not only are you missing Valentine's Day, but you're here to take a pay cut. She's going to love that.
I'll move approval of the tentative.
Second.
And then I had one comment. Number one, I really want to thank Officer Montana for your leadership, and not only of your employees, your members' leadership in doing what I know all of us have hoped that we could have to avoid reducing the level of service that we have this year for our students in next year. And I'm hoping this will just be the beginning of the other groups as well. So I really appreciate your leadership and willing to do that. I wanted to just make one comment about, every bargaining group is different, and every employee has different tasks. And I understand that you have the ability and skill to manage your resources effectively. That if, God forbid, the tax does not pass in November and there has to be additional cuts, that the proposal calls for up to additional 3 weeks, 15 days of furlough days. And I think with your leadership and the staff, you work out a way that could work with minimizing the impacts on students. That said, I don't believe that can work for most of the rest of our bargaining units, and I cannot support reducing the school year by 3 more weeks. And I'm not saying anyone's saying that, but if that's an option that comes forward from the governor even, to reduce the school year by 3 more weeks and have a month shorter school year, I'd rather take my chances with insolvency, because I think that would be so destructive. So I think this approach that you have negotiated in good faith and with the staff, it will work to meet the needs, but I don't believe it can work with most of the other units, and I cannot support a reduction of the school year. And this is not calling for that, but I do once again appreciate very much your leadership and example to your officers and the community and all the work you do on the campuses as well.
If I may put on my employee hat now, not the citizen speaker, one of the things that was discussed in the bargaining table in regards to that, how can we make this work? We are dedicated and working with our management team and we would have it in our own policies that there's a minimum staffing level, and we will not go below that. Going below that then starts risking the safety of our students, and we're dedicated not to be doing that. Any furloughs that are taken will not interfere with the instruction of students, and I'm sure that's more where your concern comes. So we have discussed that portion of it. We will do what we can. Being that we are 12 months employees and we have to protect the district all year long, unfortunately we can't take a holiday from the criminals. We will work to make sure that this works and their students are not jeopardized by this decision.
Yeah, I just want to thank Jesus as well and your entire bargaining unit. And in fact, our entire community owes gratitude to the step that you've taken. It means that our students are going to be safer next year than they would have been if the officers hadn't stepped up and been willing to take this sacrifice. Now I think the rest of our community has to step up and realize that we do have and we will have choices in front of us in November, because it is not right that the people who put their lives on the line every day to ensure the safety of our students are the ones who then additionally have to take this sacrifice just so our students can have adequate staffing of police in our schools. That's a responsibility for our entire community. You've taken an incredible step, and we owe you a debt of gratitude for doing that, you and your entire bargaining unit. But the way this community can show its gratitude for the step that you've taken is to do the right thing in November and to support the revenue that we need for all of our public schools. Thank you, Officer Montana.
Okay. And just to back up what Mr. Barnett was saying, certainly there was a situation with the potential furloughs with the police officers, but in terms of we do not have any legal authority at this point to reduce the school year any further anyway, and so we're basically asking our unions to look at the same sort of savings, which is salary rollbacks, again contingent on the ballot measure as opposed to furloughs. But I like everybody else is saying, the key here is that management and labor have sat down together and worked this out for the good of the kids in our schools, and I think that's a great step forward. And just as we're praising Mr. Montana and the police officers, also Superintendent Kova and your staff in terms of working with them very diligently to make this happen. So we have a motion and a second.
I think that what this shows is that there is a third way. There are other options with regard to the budget outlook for the next school year, and that, as I have said many times over the last year, that it is incumbent upon us to work together with all the bargaining units to try to preserve class sizes and educational programs, to maintain staffing levels that are reasonable for all of our schools. And in this agreement, I see something very, very hopeful and optimistic, an option that other bargaining units can look at as a potential reality for them and their members, so that we don't have to resort to laying off hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of unit members in order to pay for the reinstatement of the 5 furlough days and the 7% raise, and that's the trade-off, that we just need to pull together and ride out the weather, the storm, for one more year. Thank you.
Okay, please vote. That passes 5-0. We have our own applause in this huge auditorium. Okay, we'll move on to item H6. Move approval. We've already discussed this. Barnard Elementary is excess school property. No further comments. Please vote. Yes, we do have a second.
Oh, you're staying here.
There we go. Okay, that passes 5-0.
Okay.
On item H7, we have the board self-assessment. I'll just comment very briefly on this. We focused on 3 areas for the record. One is that the goals for student achievement should be the dominant focus of our organization. The board has rededicated itself to that. One, by having a once-a-month report from the staff on academic progress, and other, that we will have a workshop once a quarter where the staff is presenting to us regarding student achievement and we are learning about it. The second point was advocating for the organization and the students it serves, and we've discussed this to develop a very clear advocacy plan for our schools in Sacramento, Washington, and with the public. And the third area was initiating and maintaining a constructive two-way dialogue with the students, parents, and the community. And we really recognize that we need a lot. We've done a lot, but we need a lot more work in communication, so everybody is operating off of the same facts and information about what is going on in the district in terms of student achievement, knowing where we're succeeding and where we're failing, knowing what's going on with the finances and what the budget realities are. And so we have some items that we're going to be doing on that. And we had one other item that we added to our governing GC, stands for governing governance culture. That when any board member is absent from a meeting, he or she will review the video or audio tapes, any documents from that missed meeting prior to the next meeting. So that's
Bernie was texting me when I was sick, homesick, watching reruns and trying to tell me what you guys were doing.
It was an audio meeting, you couldn't see it live. Okay, at other times you could see it live. We will have. We also ask to have updates at least once per quarter on the board's priority focus areas. And in terms of evaluations, we want to move towards 360 evaluations of the superintendent, of the board, and eventually of everybody in the district. So that's the report on that. Next, speaking of absences,
Move approval.
For approving that, moved and seconded to excuse board member absence. And
do we have the video and audio recordings?
We have to have a video of the board member watching the video before we can approve this. Okay, please vote. Okay, that passes 5-0. And item H9 is a resolution calling on the state legislature to enact legislation to change the certificated layoff dates for San Diego Unified School District.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. And just to put it on the record, we had the teachers union discuss the fact that we have a broken budget system where we are issuing layoffs in March before we have the final budget details in May and June. So we responded with a letter to the president of the teachers union, and we have developed our own resolution calling on the state legislature to allow us to move our layoff notification from March 15th to June 1st to not disrupt the school year, and the final date from to August 1st. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any comments on this? Please vote.
Okay, on I3, I would just say I want to thank the staff for their hard work and its realignment committee recommendations, and I move approval of it.
Okay, it's just a technical approval on the wording and what the work they've been doing. Seconded. Please vote on item I3. And finally, on the consent agenda, we have one item which was pulled by one board member, namely Mr. Beiser, E19.
E19 deals with the sale of property at Fairbrook Road and Rue, Fontenay, and Scripps Ranch. It's my understanding that this is going to push back the close of escrow date several months. Is that correct? Okay. I've heard reports from several members of the community that the property is overgrown and may pose a fire hazard. Is there any way that we can make sure that by extending that close of escrow, that we're making sure that we're maintaining the property and cutting back the excess shrubs and stuff?
Absolutely. We'll look into it tomorrow.
Well, I understand the city is allowing goats now on their new promotions.
The second point is, I know previously when this item has come up before and we pushed back the escrow, we pushed back the close of escrow, we pushed back the close of escrow a couple of times already now. I have raised the issue of partnering with the community, the Scripps Ranch Civic Association. Have we had the opportunity yet to partner with them as to the development scope of this property yet?
Roy can answer. I know we had discussions with them months ago, but I don't know about it since we've extended the escrow.
I can tell you that the developer has been in contact with the Scripps Ranch Civic Association, and when the project gets underway, they will definitely be meeting and talking about the scope of the project.
Okay, but we haven't engaged the Civic Association as the seller of the property.
No, but the developer has been talking to the Scripps Ranch Civic Association head.
Okay.
We've actually have talked with Bob Ilko, staff has.
Right.
And they're in support of it. Okay. And Ryan Green from Rylands Homes has also had discussions with them as well.
Okay. Has that community group voted in a motion to support the sale of the property?
Not on the sale, but they did vote on, they were part of the conditions of approval prior to the property being approved. So they were a party to the design criteria, the single-story requirements, a multitude of requirements that are in the conditions that we are required to implement.
Okay, and how long ago were they involved in the process?
Those were done in 2007. However, we did reach out to Bob Ilko immediately after being selected.
Good.
And we've had at least, we met with him in person, had 2 other conversations. We delayed our meeting with the group only because of all the things that have transpired with the city. We wanted to make sure we had the right story to tell them and everything that was accurate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I move the item.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, that passes. We will now go upstairs for debriefing. Yes.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Very popular.